Would you like to support the Insiders? Pick up some merch now. Support us by getting a shirt, a hoodie, support Abby's window, get a Shenanigans shirt, whatever you'd like. Pick up some merch now. Insiders Pro Wrestling. The link is at the end of the video.
Happy Sunday night, guys. It is a crazy cold night here in the Northeast, and it doesn't know what it wants to do. It's warm, it's cold, it's warm, it's cold. I mean, 20-some degrees outside now, snowing all day, and in 4 or 5 days from now, it's supposed to be 70 degrees. It's insane here. And my knee doesn't like it, and my back doesn't like it, and no other part of me likes it very much either. It needs to figure out what it wants to do. Plus, we had that wacky time change thing happen today. I know a lot of you were talking about that in the chat. And you just never get over that. You miss out on the day. It takes a couple of days to get back into the swing of things. When I woke up today, I was just very, very overly tired. I don't know about you, Jeff, but I kind of wish that, and supposedly there's news that they might let the states decide this. I know Pennsylvania is already going to keep it, but I just kind of wish they would just do away with it, man. I could do without it. Like, I don't need it to get dark at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And I just kind of wish it would go away because it really does. It messes you up. You get that schedule down and stuff like that, just like anything else. And then it just comes along and just screws you up, set the clock up again. And, it's just a pain in the butt. But yeah, other than that, it's been a day. But yeah, man, welcome to another episode of Between the Ropes. Of course, we missed last week because of the big pay-per-view that AEW had, but we have a lot to talk about as we usually do if we miss one of these. Lots of stuff going on in the wrestling world, lots of really, really cool things that are happening all over the place, and we're going to cover them the best we can with you today. We will have all of our normal things. We've got our breaking news. We've got our sell or no sell, which of course you guys are very, very big part of now. And then of course we have a grievance. Oh, you're going to like the grievance tonight. I've got one and I'm going to discuss it a little bit. And you guys are really going to want to hear this because I really, really want to hear Jeff's perspective on this, and it's a topic that needs to be discussed, and I really want to hear Jeff's perspective on it because it's just very important, I think, for all of you to hear. So it's going to be a good grievance tonight as well. Then, of course, we got favorite moments of the week and all of that good stuff coming up too. But it's going to be a fun night. We have a lot of stuff to talk about, and big week in wrestling, Jeff.
Yeah, huge week in wrestling. We got a lot, and as always, we have a lot to talk about here. So, yeah, it makes for an interesting show when we can talk about, you know, all the stuff that's going on, swirling around.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Oh, the Buccaneers re-signed Baker Mayfield. Nice.
Yeah,
A lot,
yeah,
lot of NFL stuff going. How about Mac Jones going to Jacksonville? Apparently,
yeah.
looks like the Patriots are kind of ripping it up a little bit, maybe starting over. And a lot of moves to it. With that. I heard maybe Saquon Barkley might be a target now for the Cowboys,
Ooh,
which is interesting. We'll see. But yeah, we're getting in close to free agency in the NFL, and a lot of names are going to be changed. I know Eagles fans. I know there's some in our chat. Man, you lost a couple of big players announced their retirement. Obviously, Kelsey, but then of course they lost a couple of defensive players. I think one of them went to another team, and I think one of them announced his retirement from the defense too.
yeah,
So a lot of things I think are in the NFL are going to change. If you're a football fan, there's going to be a lot of changes. I think because of the salary cap changes. A lot of teams are just maybe not going to carry as much cap. They're going to try to get under that. And so you might see a lot of people hitting free agency this year. So it's gonna be interesting to see, Jeff, how that works itself out. But a lot of football news probably upcoming in the next like 2 or 3 weeks.
yeah. Oh, yeah. I'd say so. It's that time.
Yeah, absolutely. We got basketball heading to playoffs pretty soon in the NBA, the NHL, obviously, too. Baseball, spring training is underway. So a lot of stuff. March Madness is going to be getting underway for those of you that are into college basketball. And if you do those crazy March Madness pools anywhere and do a little gambling on March Madness. So that's going to be a lot of sports going on right now all over the place. So that's a fun thing too. And we're in the thick of wrestling season. WrestleMania is right around the corner, and so many other companies do big things right around that time too. Not just the big ones, but the indies as well. So really, really fun time to be a wrestling fan. All right, let me welcome some people in, and I'll go over our schedule, and we'll get started. We've got Clown in the house. James Grant is here. What's up, Derek? Happy Sunday. Yeah, it messed me up too, dude. Really did. I wasn't ready to go to bed when I should have gone because I knew I was going to lose an hour of sleep, and I was just like, I was beat all day long in work. I was just tired. We got Brandon. We got Big Dan. What's up, Big Dan? We got A is in the house. A Jobson. Anthony Slate, member of our channel. Welcome, Anthony, and thank you so much for being here. Little round of applause for our members. Brandon Davey is here. Brandon Sandman is here. Jason Stauffer is here watching WWE Rivals. Yeah, that's on the what channel is that? A&E that has some good stuff there. Yeah, it's always good stuff to see. Andrew Stevens is here. What's up, Andrew? Brian is here. We've got, let's see if I'm missing anybody. Andrea is here. Welcome, Andrea. Hello. We've got Christopher. Hey, Christopher, how are you? Jeremy Dunderman, a long-standing member of our channel. Round of applause for Jeremy as well. Thank you so much for being a member. We appreciate you, Michael King. We've got Alexa Bliss Gamer 0809, and I think I have mentioned everybody, and I'm sure there may be other people's out there. Hello to all of you. We, as Jeff has mentioned on our last couple of streams, are really getting a lot of people watching from Twitter. So hello to the Twitter or X, or maybe they can't call themselves Twitter people anymore. So I will call you, I don't know, should we call them X-Men or X-Women or X? I don't know. You're X something, but welcome to all of you from wherever you may be watching, whether it's on X, whether it's on Twitch, wherever you may be. We appreciate you coming out and watching us. Okay, so let's go over our schedule. We of course have now our normal schedule is Abby's. Usually do that on a Tuesday, but things happen sometimes with work, so we'll keep you posted with that. Jody of course has a job where her schedule can fluctuate and stuff like that, and so we'll let you know when that will be. And then, of course, Abby's abode. And then we will be back with TNA on Thursdays. Of course, our TNA Thursday, which starts at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Abby starts, of course, at 6 normally. So Thursday, we will be here for the follow-up for that big pay-per-view and see what happens next and going forward, because now is the time when they're going to start ramping up some storylines for the real big shows that are coming up very soon, like Slammiversary and other things like that. So we'll see. We got a lot of questions to be answered about some of the stuff that happened now on Sacrifice. So we will be going right into that on Thursday, and then we'll be back here next Sunday night for this show for Between the Ropes to wrap everything up like we have tonight. Okay. All right. So Robert Downey Jr. won Best Supporting Actor. Very nice. Oh, that's right. The Oscars are tonight too. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, the Oscars are tonight. I was looking at the movie list. It's funny. Oscars were very different when I was growing up. They used to have some of the bigger box office winners, some of the nowadays it's very, very different. First of all, there's 10 movies that they pick. It used to only be 5. So they kind of narrow it down a lot more. But I know the Barbie movie's nominated, Oppenheimer's nominated. That crazy one with Willem Dafoe I don't remember the name, and Ruffalo, Mark Ruffalo, who played the Hulk. That's a crazy. It's like a weird take on Frankenstein almost. So that one's up for an award. I know there's several others. So yeah, anybody that's watching, that's cool though for Robert Downey Jr. Good for him. I always liked him. So Chad Schrader's here. Hello, Chad. Gust is here. Hey, Gust, how are you? Hanzo's here. Hanzo, I saw your post with the WWE game. Very cool. Hanzo, of course, a big gamer. I hope you're enjoying that. I did watch a video last night of a guy showing the Royal Rumble. That looks really fun. Really fun. Like, he was playing it and you can literally move the camera. So he's like taking the camera out and panning out and in, and then he pans it upwards and looks down at the ring. So it almost kind of looks like you're watching it on TV. And when you play that, you kind of spectate until your number gets called. And then you come down to the ring, and then you're in it. So now the only thing he was hoping was that they could increase the amount of people that were in the ring. Apparently they cut it off. I think it's 8, but that's still the same. But man, he was wrestling. He was playing with Macho Man Randy Savage. But the ring was filled with, like, you had George the Animal Steel, you had Andre the Giant, you had like Hogan, Undertaker, Shawn Michaels. Like, it was just Roman Reigns. There was just like a who's who of all these classes. But it was really cool. He could pan out and show like when the countdown was happening. So it's really cool for people who do that kind of like gaming content, because you can see the countdown and you can see the next superstar come running down the ramp. It was a little weird that they had them all run, especially when Andre, because Andre, would methodically walk down to the ring. He comes running out and like chugging down. But it looks it looks like it's a lot of fun, and the graphics are really good. I think who ended up winning it? I'm trying to think now. His character lost. It ended up being Seth Rollins and Undertaker as the final 2. And if I'm not mistaken, I think Seth Rollins won the whole thing. I think Seth was the one who ended up winning the whole thing. So it was interesting. It was fun to watch. And of course, he streams the game, whoever the guy was. And but it looks cool. It looks like it's a lot of fun. So I hope those of you that have it are enjoying the game because it looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. Chad Schrader, congrats to the Iowa women's basketball team and Caitlin Clark winning the championship. Oh, very cool. Dylan's here. Hey, Dylan. Jen is here. Hello, Jen. How are you? I'm happy that you are doing good and great. Talking to Love Emma. Emma Stone. Yes, Emma Stone's in that movie that I mentioned as well. All right. So, Jeff, I guess we're going to get started. We've got a lot of things to talk about, and we better dig in.
Yeah, we got to get into it. First thing we'll get into is any breaking news.
Trying to think if there's been some breaking news. Obviously, we got some in the way of a guy that people probably don't want to hear too much about. Good old Vinnie Mac sold off all of his stocks that he had with Endeavor. And so he no longer is a stockholder. Well, no surprise there. I mean, he's certainly not going to be doing it. So if any of you guys had doubts in your mind that, he would, he always ends up coming back somehow, right? I think you could stop worrying about that. He's definitely parting ways with all of his parts of the company. So I think for many people, that is a good thing. I know there's still a little bit of that doubt and fear in the back of people's minds that he's going to get away or get off with nothing and stuff like this. And we don't know. Who knows how the legal stuff is going to go? Nobody knows that, right? But it looks as if he is definitely not going to be making any sort of comeback anytime soon. I'm hearing news. Everybody in the chat are talking about Lesnar is back on the WWE site. I don't know. I don't know what to think about that. Who knows? Again, this is all kind of legalese stuff. Jeff, what do you think about all this? It's hard to talk about this because you really don't know what's going on behind the scenes. And I'm sure Lesnar has legal people as well, fighting for him and on his side. So I don't know. Maybe there's some sort of injunction going on where they're going to put him back on the roster just until things happen in the courts. I don't know. What do you make of all this? I mean, I could tell, listen, I'm not going to go into what my opinion is on it because everybody's going to formulate their own opinion about the whole thing. I think we talked about that on this show, right? We talked about this like 3 weeks ago or more. I think the whole thing is horrible. I feel horrible for the young woman. And if there were any other women involved, and if all of it was indeed true, then they deserve every brand of justice to be done to anyone of them who was involved with this. So that's my final take on the whole thing. But as far as him being on the roster, listed on the roster, I don't know, Jeff, if there's anything to make of that, but I don't know. What do you think about all this?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it could be that he, like you said, he maybe has someone that's saying, hey, well, he's still under contract, so legally you have to list him there.
Yeah.
I'm all set. I don't have to I don't necessarily have to see him back in wrestling.
Yeah.
But I mean, if he's cleared of anything, and that's what it comes down to. If he's cleared of anything, then I mean, he's deserving of another chance. But if not, if what we've read and seen in terms of the lawsuit is even remotely true, then he doesn't need to be anywhere near the business, in my opinion. I just think, I don't know. Like you said, I have a lot of opinions, but I think to completely say no way or throw them out, if that's not your personal feeling, then you have to wait until more details are available. But I'll be the first to tell you, I've never been the biggest Brock Lesnar fan.
Right.
So especially right now with how well so many people are doing on the roster, I don't necessarily think WWE needs them. If they feel differently, that's them, that's their business, that's their product. But just my opinion.
Yeah, Big Dan's mentioning him being, and see, I honestly, man, I don't want him anywhere near WrestleMania. I don't want him anywhere near WrestleMania. I don't think, like Jeff just said, to Jeff's point, I don't think they need him. I don't think you need any sort of anything from Brock Lesnar being involved in that match. I don't care about his ties to Paul Heyman. He doesn't belong there. And if that could taint what they already have is a really good story happening. And I would never ever take the chance on that. I don't write for WWE. So obviously their decision is their decision, but I would not have him involved in that. No way, no how. No way, no how. It's too good of a story to even kind of try to inject that, where you would get a chance where you would have people that may really think that's distasteful and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, there's no way. There's no way I would do that. I personally feel whatever he did is absolutely terrible, but at the same time, if we need a big draw and he's cleared of anything at all, it's him. I don't know, man. Hanzo, I agree with you in your logic. I just don't know that with how they're shaping up this to be as big as it is, and obviously we'll get into more about this very soon. I don't think they need anything to be a big draw. This already has the draw. This already with the Cody and Rock and Roman and Seth thing. That's the draw. I mean, that is going to draw tons and tons and tons and tons of viewers. And, does Brock need to be there to draw more? I don't think so. I don't think so. They've got people hooked. Everybody's hooked to this story. Everybody. And then with the other matches that you already have going on, now you have the stuff with Randy Orton and Logan Paul going on too, and Kevin Owens. You've got Rhea and Becky. There are some really big marquee matchups, and I really don't think you need anything with Brock. I don't. I just don't. Especially something you're going to end up just throwing in at the last minute. Yeah, I don't think so. Let's see, Edward. Hello, Edward. How are you? Damien, no worries, dude. Sean Suslowitz is here. Hey, Sean, long time no see. How are you doing? Guys, I said I may agree. May I agree they don't need him either. I was just saying in terms of classic heel loophole. Yeah, I just don't think so, Dan. I don't think so. Yeah, it's fine. However you look at it, I just don't think right now he's necessary at all. I just don't think he's necessary at all. So Andrew says, I agree with Joe and Jeff. Brock isn't needed. And WWE is doing well without him. Let the current roster cook. Yeah, I agree. The people who've been there have been doing extremely well with the stuff that they're doing. I don't think you need to add that. Maybe in other years and Vince loved to, Jeff, we know that. Vince loved his veterans, loved that the guys would come in, bring Brock in all the time as like a push button thing. He fought Omos. I just don't think it's necessary. They're doing well enough, I think, without him. So there you go. All right. That is our breaking news for the day. Really nothing else nothing really out there going on otherwise that we're not going to touch on coming up soon, which is good. Sometimes no news is good news because sometimes you get a lot of garbage. I will mention one little thing that I did see on X today, and it's not like I don't see this almost every single day, but I have to mention it because it's one of the people that me and Jeff really love and respect a lot, and that is Jordan Grace dealing with another a-hole, for lack of a better term, on Twitter, and just some moron that puts out a post about her saying that something about her, you've done so much to yourself, but something about her not looking. I don't even know. It was just garbage. Just another thing that just makes me unbelievably crazy. That people would stop to take even a minute to have to try to just insult somebody is just crazy to me. Just crazy to me. Like, what possesses people to do that? I just don't know. And then she has to respond to it and stuff like that. What a shame. What a shame that the people get off doing that kind of thing and they think it's great when they get that little bit of attention. It's just sad. It just really is. Yep. Just really is sad, man. I know I want Chad Gable to win the Intercontinental title. Obviously that could happen. Him, Sami Zayn, I think is a pretty good contender for that as well. Mm-hmm. That's going to be interesting. And there's another thing right there, like how they're getting that going now. Right. And they're getting, Gunther is going to have a challenger by way of that. So you're getting something big that may happen. And look at all those people have something. Chad Gable, we remember that match he had with Gunther, how good that was and how close he got. He's got motive to win. Sami Zayn certainly has motive to win. So that's going to be an interesting thing to watch as well. So a lot of people getting into that also. So very cool. All right, Jeff, I guess we'll get into our topics then for the night, huh?
Yeah, we'll go from that to some better news in terms of Hall of Fame announcements.
Yes.
Which wasn't what I sent you earlier, but I figured, we'd add it in at the beginning of the show.
Yeah. Well, this is always a great time of the year too for this. Yeah. Whenever we could celebrate. And I listened to Busted Open's masterclass this morning, and they had talked about their stories. It was great. You got to hear some really fun stories from Bully Ray and Mark Henry, and from Tommy Dreamer, all about Paul Heyman. And it was really great stuff. Like Tommy and Paul, very, very close friends. And Tommy just remembered that he called him to come out to a party. And when he went to the party, Tommy's a big New York sports fan. So when he went to the party, he didn't realize, but when he got there, it was the whole the New York Rangers team had won the Stanley Cup and they were all celebrating. And when he got there, they were all there. And he said he got to drink beer out of the Stanley Cup with like some of the Rangers players and stuff like that. That's such a cool thing. And Paul convinced him to come and do it because he was like, I'm not into that. I don't really go out, partying. And Paul is like, come on, you got to come out, and convinced him to go. And then he said it was just amazing. Bully talked a little bit about his the first time he met Paul, and Bully. Bully described himself, Jeff, as being he could have been the third Nasty Boy. That's what he said he looked like. He said he had a mullet. Imagine Bully with a mullet. He said he had a mullet and he was chubby and he was, bigger than he was. And he said he remembered he talked to Tommy Dreamer, and Dreamer was telling him, come out. Paul's going to include you in this show that they're doing. And he said he's got a part for you, so come out. So Bully said he hung around, and it was getting close to the very end, and all this stuff, and he had no, and it wasn't going on. So finally, I guess he went up to Paul and said, "Hey, I don't mean to bother you or anything, sir, but I did hear that you were going to make use of me on this show tonight." And Paul's like, "Yep, we got you." And basically, he went out there and took a big slam, and that was really it. He just got bounced and got slammed, and that was the end of it. And then when he came back out, and he asked Paul, he's like, "Well, how'd I do?" And Paul's like, "What do you think about shaving your head, kid?" And then Bully looks at him and he's like, "There's two things in my life as a wrestler," Bully said, "that I never wanted to be or to have done. One was to ever have to shave my head, and two was to ever be called Bubba, because Bubba was always the fat guy." He said, I'm laughing because I thought it was hysterical because he did both. He shaved his head, and they called him Bubba. And the legend was born. So it was great. And then Mark Henry, of course, Mark spoke about, and this was phenomenal, mentioned about when they fired Dusty Rhodes, and how Paul Heyman was the only, they basically made Dusty, and this is just sickening. They basically made Dusty get changed in a closet. They didn't even want him in the locker room. And this is a legend of the business, and they treated him this way. They didn't want him in the locker room. And so basically Paul went into that locker room, and he sat with Dusty Rhodes. He said he would not go into the other locker room. He came into that little closet, whatever it was, and he sat there with Dusty Rhodes. And this is why, you see that stuff that they were talking about when it was with Cody and Paul and stuff. There's a lot of history there. And it looked really like, obviously Paul was very close to Dusty Rhodes. So, we see Paul Heyman, Jeff, from the ring. We see him do his stuff, right, with the bloodline and everything else. And he's a guy you just love to hate. But there's so much really to him, and those three gentlemen saying their stories about him and talking about him really make it seem like he's a great guy and a really good person, especially some of the things that he's done. And of course, he's just one of the people we have going in. But it's really cool because sometimes, Jeff, in wrestling, we see a personality. We see a person who they're playing, right? A character that they're playing. We don't know them necessarily outside of the business. And so Tommy told a story about him where they were doing an ECW show, and Paul was there, and he met Tommy, as they often did before the show started. And Tommy came in, and I guess Paul got a phone call, and then Paul mentioned something and said, "Well, I gotta go." And Tommy's looking at him like, "Well, wait a minute, where are you going? We've got a show here." And he's like, "You got it, you got this." And he just said to Tommy, like, "You do it." And then Tommy said that became a regular thing. Tommy then started running a lot of the ACW shows and things like that. So, he just seems like a good guy, Jeff. I've never had the pleasure of meeting him or anything like that at any kind of fan events or anything like that. But again, like I said, we see what his character is. But from what I hear and a lot of the stories I hear from these wrestlers, Jeff, he seems like a really decent dude.
Yeah, and the other thing that I think people need to realize is that his mind for the business is brilliant. and the reverence that he has for talent and the business, the history of the business, I think is something that goes unrecognized by just the casual fan who, just pays attention to what he's doing now and don't know him from the Paul E. Dangerously days and, from the early days of ECW and what he did in WCW. He longevity means a lot, and for someone to have had a career as long as Paul Heyman has and done all the great things that he's done. And I mean, my gosh, think of the names that Paul Heyman has worked with
Oh man.
throughout his career. I know a lot of people, if you're a newer fan, you're like Brock and CM Punk. Yeah, that's great. But he also worked with Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Yep.
I mean, you think about the whole roster with ECW. You think about Ravishing Rick Rude. I mean, there are so many different names that you can throw out there that Paul Heyman has worked with, and when people have glowing things to say, um, and it's pretty universal. That's a special thing. So, kudos to him. And like you said, we've got some others. I'm going to go through the pictures real quick. So,
Bull Nakano, of course. She was a women's champion in 1994. Slammy Award winner for most devastating. I'm reading this off of what the hell am I? What site do I have on here? Wikipedia. I'm reading this from Wikipedia. Most devastating for winner for most devastating, recognized as having won women's championships in Japan, Mexico, and the United States. So that's pretty impressive, especially, not like now, again, very, very different times where we have New Japan recognized as much as it is now. And back then you just kind of saw stuff happening from Japan in magazines. So you kind of didn't get to see it on TV. You didn't see it, on pay-per-view or whatever the case might be. So again, Jeff, pioneers of women's wrestling like this don't get a lot of the recognition that they deserve. Jeff, I know a lot of people recognize China as a pioneer, and some others that came before her, Mae Young and Great Moolah and stuff like that. Yes, but sometimes the names that maybe aren't as known, but yet still, the women's wrestling wouldn't be today what it was without someone like Bull Nakano.
when you look at powerhouses like a Jordan Grace that you mentioned earlier, when you look at Jade Cargill, Bianca Belair, you mentioned China.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen if you don't have someone pave the way like Bull Nakano.
Yep.
Wrestling was very, very different when you had the likes of Mae Young and Wendy Richter and, some of the other names. I know I'm kind of going down a nostalgia thing here, but when you have those names, wrestling was very different. And then you have someone like Bull Nakano come in, and she was revered and feared, much like China was. If you've been fortunate enough to kind of go back, if you're a younger fan, or if you remember those days, if you're an old head like us, I mean, she was feared and revered that way. So, yeah, I mean, and James Grant talking about we wouldn't have seen Asuka, Kairi Sane, EO Sky. That's right. I mean, she paved the way in many, many aspects in women's wrestling. So really happy that she's being inducted. Long overdue, in my opinion.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. And how about these two?
Oh man,
you want to talk about history, right? If you can go back, and I can go back and say I watched the first WrestleMania. So if you go back and you remember watching the first WrestleMania, I'm sure a lot of you guys probably did at some point, but you of course saw the replays and watched it, since a lot of you, oh my God, this was probably before a lot of you were born. But I remember watching these two guys, the US Express, of course, it's Barry Windham and Mike Rotunda. And those of you who have come out to our channel for as long as we've been doing this, you all know who they are in relation to Bray Wyatt, and one of the guys that we have, talked about on our show before he tragically passed away. And if you didn't see it, I would recommend you watch it. But the Triple H phone call to these two gentlemen, so much emotion. And I'm sure that between both of these men, they were not only probably very, very happy, which I'm sure they were for the induction and the call, but also in a way, I'm sure both of them are probably thinking about Bray as well.
Oh yeah.
And the fact that he can't be there to see this amazing moment for them to have. So Jeff, very well deserved. Again, they were in the very first WrestleMania, an amazing tag team, and just two veteran, long time standing veterans and great names of the business, Jeff.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, when you think about families in the business, I know a lot of times people bring up, they bring up the bloodline. They think about that. They think about Cody Rhodes and his family. And I mean, I think the rotundas should have been up there too. I'm happy that they're getting their just due. Um, I will say that I don't know, and I know that I've gotten this question a couple times. I think I don't know if it will happen this year for Bray in terms of Hall of Fame. But I think it may happen next year. But it will definitely happen soon. I think in the next few years. But I'm just really happy to see these two get in. And honestly, not even gonna lie, I saw the video where Triple H called to let them know, and I will be honest, I cried. So
yeah, it was a great moment. It
yeah,
really was a great moment. And I agree with Jeff. I think, guys, I know a lot of you really feel strongly about them having Bray in this year. Okay. And I completely get it. And believe me, after seeing these two get in there and all of the stuff that's now coming, the merchandise, as I mentioned on the other show, that's been coming out with Bray. You're seeing Bray in WWE Supercard. He's in in 2K24. So the merchandising has released because he is now a legend and on a Legends contract. So that in itself is going to lead a lot of people to believe that he's going to be announced. The only thing I will just say is just consider just one thing if it doesn't happen. And I know there's going to be people that are going to be upset, and I understand, but just consider this. The one reason that they may decide not to, and like Jeff said, maybe wait, is his children. Because his children, some of them much too young, to have understood where their father, what happened, right? What happened to their dad. And maybe they just want to give that just a little bit of time. They always say time heals all wounds, right? And so maybe they just want to give that a little bit of time yet. Before they decide to do that. And this is going to be up to JoJo and up to the family as to what they want to do. And I'm sure WWE, Triple H, whoever the case might be, will give them all that they need and all that they want. And when they're ready, I'm sure he will go in. And he will be inducted in there. But just, again, just consider that if it's not this year, then that's probably why. It may just be a little too soon, maybe for the family and stuff like that. So don't get too disappointed if he isn't nominated. I would tend to think he would be, but again, just don't get too upset if he's not, because again, it could just be that maybe his wife and maybe his brother just kind of maybe feel it's just a little too soon. So we'll see. And we should get another inductee, I would guess, this coming Monday on Raw as they continue to move forward to WrestleMania. I'm sure we'll get a couple more. We usually always get one that someday they do like an entertainer or somebody from outside of the wrestling business that we may see brought in. So this depends how many nominees they do. Some years they have a little bit of a shorter list. So we'll see. But some people are thinking maybe Batista. I know Batista was mentioned a couple of times already that he might go in. So we'll see. But I'm sure we might get something else on our Raw this Monday. Brain's uncle's getting inducted again, and his dad is going to be there. Pretty much means he's going this year, which is well deserved. Just hope Brody goes in as well. Do they keep it a secret? And during the U.S. Express induction speech, they say, and now it's our privilege to announce Bray Wyatt is going. Kind of, I don't know. I don't know. I think that might take away a little bit from that. I don't know. It's a cool idea, I guess.
That would be special, I think.
Yeah.
Like if it came like that, if it was, if people were thinking, okay, well, this is the class that we have, and people are okay with it, and then all of a sudden you get these two announcing Bray going. I mean, my gosh, you want to talk about emotional, and
boy, yeah.
The roof would come on. I mean, good thing they're not going to be in a roofed stadium for WrestleMania, because that would take the roof off the place. So I actually, that gave me chills when I saw that comment from Bonus Baby, because I think that would be a really, really special moment. I guess I would defer to all of you though, and say, and ask the chat to answer that same question. What do you think about that? Do you think that would be a good way to induct Bray, or how would you like to see it done? Let us know in the chat.
Yeah. Yep. Rumor has Haku going in this year. Sid Vicious should be in, says Jamie. U.S. Express are my favorite tag team in the WWE in the 80s. And Big Dan talked about how they used Real American. They absolutely did.
Yep,
they used that song before the Hulkster used it. So yes, sir. Absolutely. All right. Well, there's that. That's the Hall of Fame so far. Should be a lot of fun. I know Tazzy will be doing this on his channel prior to WrestleMania weekend. So make sure you join him for that. Or if I'm not sure if he's going to be there, or join Coaster, or whoever might be there for that. And we will say this, if we find out that Bray is going in, we will more than likely possibly join him if we can for the night, for the celebration, of course. So I'm sure Jody will want to be there. Jeff and I will be there if we can. So yeah. So just keep your eye out and watch for that. So, all right. What do we got next, Jeff?
All right. Up next, we go from this year's inductees to another WWE Hall of Famer who hung up the boots this past weekend. So one of my favorites, the Icon Sting, retired.
It's still crazy to say, isn't it? After all the years that he's been in the business, and he just seemed, Jeff, I don't know. This guy to me just seems like he never looked his age. Even now, like when you think that he's in his mid 60s, it's almost insane to think of. Because he's so good at what he does, has kept himself very well in shape. And he still looks today like he looked 25, 30 years ago, especially in the face, which is insane. But yeah, man, I mean, this couldn't have been done any better. Kudos to AEW for doing this the way they did it. And everything they had setting up for it. The inclusion of, and I was skeptical at first about this, but the inclusion of Ric Flair and how he got a little bit involved with it was kind of cool.
I got to throw the dragon in there, Ricky Steamboat.
I was just going to say, having him out there, it's just the way that they did all of this was absolutely, they knocked it out of the park. It was a 10 out of 10. It was a fantastic way for him to retire. The only person I felt bad for in that whole thing was poor Darby going through all those panes of glass. Oh my God. When I saw his back, I'm like, dear Lord, man. But yeah, what a great way. And knowing that his sons were involved. And then guys, if you didn't see it after it was over, and he was in the back and he got that voicemail and he's listening to all of those people talk about him on his voicemail. Paul White, Big Show, telling him that he still owed him for a card game or something back in the day. And Sting's just there like, yep, I probably do. I probably do. And then just so many, Billy Gunn talking about everybody saying good. And then of course his daughter. He was pretty stoic. He was pretty good until his daughter talked. And then you could just start to see. the eyes start welling up. You start getting a little emotional, and why wouldn't you? Just Jeff, they knocked it out of the park. It couldn't have been done any better. They did a wonderful, wonderful job. And listen, I know sometimes we don't give AEW a lot of props and stuff like that, but in two cases, right? They did everything absolutely right. This and when Brody had passed away, they both times just did an amazing job with both things that they did that are hard to do. Let's face it. Brody's passing, terrible tragedy, and they did a wonderful thing with that. And then this, when an icon leaves wrestling, it's not easy. It's very, very difficult to do that. To say goodbye to someone in a good way. But they just did a fantastic job, and I was floored by everything. I absolutely loved it. Derek in our chat got to see it, which is amazing. You witnessed a part of history, dude, and a part of wrestling history. It's phenomenal, and I'm sure Derek will tell you in chat he will never forget it. It's something that will live in your mind, in your memory forever. As it will with Sting, I'm sure, going out. And Sting, listen, the only thing I could say, and Jeff will have his words from the bottom of my heart. Thank you. Thank you so much for entertaining all of us, for bringing to life for me a comic book vigilante character that I love dearly, and because of my love for the source material that it could have come from, and so many cool moments with you and NWO, and all of that is what I'll probably remember him most for. But yeah, thank you. For everything, and enjoy your retirement, enjoy being with your family, and whatever it is that you decide to do. But man, oh man, Jeff, I'm gonna miss him, and it's always a sad day when one of your favorites hangs it up and retires.
Yeah, and I saw a lot of this guy growing up because of where I grew up, and got to see a lot of them. And I mean, I loved him then. I mean, his energy as kind of the surfer Sting, his energy then, and seeing all the wild colors, and it was just great. And seeing him kind of evolve that character, because again, that character was around for a while, especially right after his run with Jim Hellwig and being the Blade Runner. So it's like, what was he going to do next? And then you got this Crow thing, and I don't know how many people know this, but props have to go to Scott Hall for that idea, because Scott Hall was the one that, Clown said, thank God Scott Hall watched the Crow. Yes. I mean, Scott Hall was the one that really laid the groundwork for that character change. And I would argue that in terms of character, is top 3 one of the most iconic characters of a wrestler of all time.
No doubt.
I don't think you can really argue with that. But the one thing that I wanted to say, and I thought this when I saw the entrance, I said, man, Tony Khan really knocked this out of the freaking park. I mean, everything was so well done and presented, and leading up to this. Not to mention the fact that, end of the day, Sting and Darby ended up winning the match.
Yep.
And, they retained the titles. Sting finished undefeated in AEW.
Yep.
And I thought about it. I was like, that's how you send someone out. That's how you retire a legend. And to juxtapose that, and I don't mean to be negative, but I'm going to be for like a brief second here. To juxtapose what AEW did with Sting's run compared to what WWE did.
Oh boy, yeah.
It was criminal what WWE did.
Yeah.
It was truly embarrassing. But I'm so happy that he had an opportunity to go out this way. I'm happy that he got a chance to go out on top, go out as a champion, go out undefeated, go out on a match that he asked for, because a lot of people talked about, well, man, why the Young Bucks? He asked for it. And not only that, but some of the reports coming out, and I'm not going to confirm or deny, I might have had a conversation with someone who was there, not Derek, someone that was in the back. He didn't want to go over. He wanted to put the Young Bucks over. They had to talk him into it. They had to basically tell him, no, it's going to go this way because you are freaking Sting. That tells you all you need to know about the man.
That's crazy.
I mean, dude is a legend. We're going to talk about him more in another segment on this show, but I mean, thank you, Sting. And to kind of bring it all full circle real quick, I got to see Sting the first match that one of the first live matches that I ever went to. I got to see Sting in the Greensboro Coliseum. My mom took me there. I got a high five from him at one point.
That's awesome.
Fast forward all these years, I was able to take my son to meet him. And through that, I was able to tell him some of the stories about my mom and how we got into wrestling and how she loved it. And, you know, it was just a cool, I mean, it's just so cool. So thank you, Sting. Thank you for not only what you did in the ring, but more importantly, setting a great example outside of it and being a great human being. So,
yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. There'll never be another like him.
Never.
People talk about Mount Rushmore all the time and all that, and who would you put on there? You know, I don't listen. The Mount Rushmore is whoever anybody that loves wrestling wants it to be. But if you're not including him up there, you're doing a disservice to the man, because he definitely belongs there. He may not think it, and if you probably asked him that, he'd probably be very humble and be like, nah, I don't belong up there, because that's the way he is. But he definitely belongs up there. No doubt at all that he does. And like I said, he will definitely be missed. Listen, he could probably get any job he wants if he wants to continue being around the business in some way, whether it's as a promoter or somebody behind the scenes, or maybe he wants to be involved with training or something like that. If he still does, he listen, anybody would do it. Anybody would give him that. AEW obviously would. But other than that, happy retirement, well deserved. And now he can, you know, he could be a dad, and he could watch his kids grow up and do what they want to do, and enjoy the rest of his retirement. So yeah, it's bittersweet, because it's sad knowing we'll never see him enter a ring again. But was just a wonderful, wonderful thing being able to watch his career all these years. So great stuff.
And it wouldn't surprise me if he stepped full time into the ministry, Joe.
Yeah, that's true too. Yeah.
That would not surprise me, because, you know, one of the things about Sting, Steve Borden, is that he is a devout Christian. And I know our good friend, our good pal who was on our show, Nikita Koloff, shout out to him. He has a ministry in the North Carolina area, and he's doing a lot of touring and a lot of speaking and ministering in different places across the country. Lex Luger is a part of that ministry, so it would not surprise me if Sting also became a part of that. If I hear anything, I'll let you know if I'm able to share it, but that wouldn't surprise me if he ended up in the ministry.
Could you imagine being in a church or a parish and Sting is the minister? Oh my God, how amazing would that be? And I'll tell you this: he'd get a heck of a lot of people going to church. That's amazing. That's amazing. And then, if you didn't know, guys, we did interview Nikita Koloff way back when we first started our show. So if you want to hear a little bit about, from him, go check that video out. It's in our archives. Obviously, you got to look way back. But he did talk a little bit about Sting and stuff like that throughout that show. So go back and check that out. If you ever don't have anything to listen to or don't have anything to watch, check it out. It was a great interview. All right, we're going to move on to the next thing. Jeff, what do we got up next?
All right, so up next, we go from we go from, finishing on top here in a storyline to maybe seeing if Cody can finish his story, and it seems like he's going to have quite a few hurdles to clear if that's going to be the case.
Oh boy, is this getting is this getting heated. Watched SmackDown, obviously, of course, we watched Sacrifice online, so I had to watch it afterwards. But man, oh man, the way this is going. They gave these guys the last 20 or so odd minutes of that show. All throughout the show, they were both guarded by security the entire time. This really, Jeff, and they mentioned this on Busted Open as well. They were talking about it. But this really felt different to me, because I don't think I ever remember, other than the Goldberg thing, his entrance and stuff, that you would see security backstage in front of actual people's locker rooms, leading them into the arena. This felt, Jeff, like a spectacle, like a boxing thing or like an MMA thing. This didn't necessarily feel like a wrestling thing to me. The way that they were handling this with all that backstage business and stuff reminded me, and I don't watch much MMA, but MMA is very spectacle-y in some of that stuff, like when they do the weigh-ins and when they do, you know what it reminded me of, honestly, because I don't watch a lot of MMA, but I do watch a lot of movies that are about boxing, Rocky and a lot of the other ones. That's what this reminded me of. Something in the movies with a lot, very spectacle stuff. And then you had the announcements, the wrestler announcements, and each guy coming in. And then you had the standoff, right, between the two. And the look, they accepted the challenge. That was what it was. They came out. They said, we accept. Seth said, we accept, after he called Rock a Mr. Midlife Crisis. And then, Jeff, we got I think what a lot of people were waiting for: the revenge, the slap heard around the world, the revenge. And you can see the Rock's face, like kind of doing that. It's almost like slow motion when you see the hand hit, you see, and you see the face make that thing. Cody slapped back. So many people wanted this to happen. They wanted Cody to actually do something. People out there just like, hit him already. Well, you got it. He hit him, and they went off the air, and that's how it was left. There was nothing, and nothing we saw afterwards was he just smacked him, and that was it. But this, man, I'll tell you what my thoughts are on what we're going to get here. I fully believe, and Jeff mentioned this too, so he gets all the credit with this because he talked about this before, but I am fully under the impression that they are going to lose to Rock and Roman, because it's going to create even more obstacles for Cody Rhodes in that match, and it's going to give everybody on night one that shadow of a doubt. Oh no, now he's got to do bloodline rules in order to win. He is never going to win this match. They've got to create that, because as of right now, even with The Rock involved in this storyline, people are thinking, and look at Jeff, I didn't even notice this. This is a fantastic picture. Look at Roman.
Yep. I was going to point that out.
Roman is laughing.
Going to point that out to you.
Roman is laughing in the background. I didn't even see that. That's amazing. Roman is laughing that he got hit. Guys, we're all going to hear about backstage news. We're going to hear about the sheets and everything else telling us about what is supposed to happen. Rock is apparently signed for at least 2 matches. Two. The tag team match coming up. And then the other rumor is that he is signed for a match with Roman Reigns.
Yep.
So you are probably going to get at some point, and maybe it's SummerSlam, maybe it's in Saudi, I don't know. But then Rock has his obligations to do and acting things he's doing and all that kind of stuff. but you are probably going to get that big split. You saw the friction between them two. You saw how The Rock paused before he had to acknowledge Roman Reigns and suck in his pride to do so. You saw the pause. Some are saying they saw him go like this with
That
his finger. Instead of this, you saw a little bit of this when Rock was doing that. So there is friction there, right? There is friction there. But I'm totally under the impression he's going to have to go through this whole bloodline thing. But I'm also then under the impression that every sin that the bloodline committed is going to come back and bite them in the ass. All of the people they wronged, Jimmy Uso or Jey Uso. It could be, and here's another crazy one. I'm gonna say Drew McIntyre is gonna. We saw that little thing going on with Seth and how he's trying to talk him into that they all have to fight to get rid of them, not just Seth and Cody, but all of them have to get rid of the bloodline. And I think Drew is going to get involved as well. And as there's another thing, people are going to be like, oh God, Drew's coming down. He's going to take out Seth or he's going to do something. I think he's going to help them. And I think that's everybody's going to rally. And then that's how I think Cody's going to ultimately win it. But man, oh man, Jeff, this is phenomenal. This is absolutely phenomenal. And if this all started, as rumors are saying, because The Rock came forward after CM Punk got hurt and said to someone in WWE, how can I help? How can I make this work? If that's how this all happened and all of that is true, and I'm not saying it is because that's hearsay and everything like that, we don't know. But if that's what happened, kudos to them all, Jeff, because they are doing a phenomenal thing here with this storyline and casting that shadow of doubt that Cody still might not win this match.
To your points about the presentation, they're doing a lot of MMA presentation and sports presentation because of their affiliation with Endeavor. But also you have to think about the producer that they have and that replaced Kevin Dunn. He came over from ESPN. Yep. So that's why you're seeing a lot of different things in terms of shots in the back as stars are walking in. You're seeing a lot more stuff backstage, kind of showing you the other elements. You're getting presentations like this where it's very much like a weigh-in or a press conference standoff between two fighters, and it's working well. And not only are they managing to do that with the sports presentation, but they're basically giving you a movie that's playing out in weekly episodes every single time. Every single week. And I know people are going to say, well, man, they got like 20 minutes this week. They got 40 minutes. Let me say this to you. If they gave a full hour of this on SmackDown, and don't put it past them, I guarantee you the ratings would not drop. If anything, they may go up.
They might.
Because this is being so well done, and you get the little wrinkles here and there. I need people to remember something else from Friday, too. The Rock was wearing sunglasses. Seth Rollins was wearing sunglasses. Why are these two wearing sunglasses? My belief is that we're going to get a double turn. I think Seth is going to turn on Cody. But I think The Rock is going to be like, nope, I'm not going to let this be the way that this thing ends. So, yeah, and then he's going to piss off his cousin. Now, here's the other thing that I think. Given that we've got some recent, we'll say free agents, Joe.
Yep.
Don't be surprised if The Rock puts together his own version of his own bloodline.
Yep.
Because I mean, even if it's him and Roman, you still got Jay. You still got Jimmy, and you still got Solo.
Yep.
So you got to have some backup some way. So don't be surprised. So. This is really good stuff, though. It's a great pivot, I think, because so many people were looking forward to, I think, Seth and CM Punk.
Yep.
And if those stories and those rumors are true, that this is what The Rock did to help them really nail this WrestleMania, because I feel like, whether people want to admit it or not, I feel like they have to nail this WrestleMania.
Yeah. Oh, no
Because
doubt. There. Oh, the hype alone.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, they've had to. They've made so many changes over the last year. There's been so much bad PR for the company. And in spite of that, they've done really well with their on-screen product. And I feel like for them to hit that next stratosphere and start going after some of the eyes that have been off of wrestling for a while, they've got to nail WrestleMania 40. And I feel like, given what we've seen, the build up, the Hall of Fame announcements, all of these other things, I think is pretty darn. I think it's pretty. I don't want to guarantee it, because anything can happen, but I think it's pretty safe to say that they're going to do a great job this WrestleMania. So I'm excited for it. I haven't been this excited for WrestleMania in a while, I'll be honest.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they're talking about it almost weekly. Being the greatest WrestleMania of all time. That's saying something, because of how many have been amazing over the years. Even going back to, I mean, how do you beat Andre and Hogan in WrestleMania 3? Like, how do you? But man, they're talking about it, and boy, I can kick myself in the butt. And every time I talk about this, I could have gone. It's right in my backyard. It's 2.5 hours away from where I live. I know friends that are going, and they're going to be reporting back to me and letting me know, and sending me some pics and stuff like that of Fan Day and all that. One of my friends is going to every event. He's staying down there. He's going to go to the night. He's going to the Undertaker thing that he has, the night with the Undertaker. He's doing the fan event. He's going to Mania Night 1 and Night 2, and then he's also going to Raw, which is in Philly as well, on the Monday night. So he's going the whole thing. He's going to be sending me pictures, and I'm sure I'll be able to share a lot of that with you guys. But man, it's I think it's going to be tremendous. Connor's talking about CM Punk. Yeah, shame, because CM Punk would have been a huge part of this. A huge part. He would have been wrestling. He would have been wrestling Seth.
Yep, they would have made event night 1, I believe.
Yeah. So CM Punk would have been wrestling Seth Rollins for that title, and more than likely, if I had to guess, would have probably won it. So remember, guys, too, little aside for Seth Rollins, now that they're getting back to working on movies and stuff, and all the actor strike is done, and I had almost forgotten about this, but Seth Rollins is going to be in Thunderbolts, a Marvel movie that's upcoming. He is playing a pretty prominent role in a Marvel film as a villain. So they are going to start working on that. That film comes out next year. So he may be going away for a little bit because they're going to start shooting and stuff like that. So he's going to need to be there. And because he has a kind of a fairly big role, he may have to be there for a little bit. So we'll see what happens. And that could have been, like Conrad mentioned, having CM Punk beat him, because he's probably going to need some time off. But yeah, man, everything we talked about with these two guys alone, and now both nights wrestling, but then everything else, Rhea and Becky, huge. They're going to get a main event, guys, and they deserve it.
They deserve it.
Yeah, they're going to get a main event. We've got Bailey and Io. We've got and now we're going to get Gunther is going to have his title on the line. And it's going on and on. And we've got a month to go. We still have a month to go before this even takes place. So they're gonna keep setting this up. Oh, and another AJ Styles and LA Knight is gonna be fantastic. Fantastic. And man, Jeff, AJ is getting bigger each week. Every time I see that dude in the back, like, good Lord, the man has no neck. I saw him last night in that promo, and he's like, yes. That's going to be amazing. And just this is going to be an outstanding WrestleMania. And don't forget, guys, we'll have it on our channel for you. And me, both nights, because we hit 4K, has to wear the question mark luchador mask for both nights. So I will be sweating but I'm doing it for you because you did that for us. And so I'm going to have a tribute to Question Mark. I'm going to have a lucha mask on both nights. So there you go. So come out and see us. We're all going to be here. The family will be here. Jody, I'm sure. Tazzy will be here. Maybe Brandy will pop in. All of you guys will be here, our extended family as well. So it's going to be a great time, and I can't wait to watch it with all of you guys. All right, we're moving on, Jeff. What do we got next?
Yeah, and we may have an announcement that night. We talked about this before, Joe, but we might have a little bit of an announcement that night about some future content. We may leak some things out that day during that weekend. So
keep
yeah,
an eye out.
Yep, keep an eye out. But man, Sacrifice was this past Friday, and holy moly, it was really good. We'll just say that the system works, and Ash by Elegance might be getting involved at some point soon in this Knockouts World Title picture.
This show was fantastic. We talk about knocking it out of the park. Fantastic. What a fantastic show. And guys, if you don't listen to it, go and listen to Eric Young's interview on Busted Open. He interviewed with LaGreca and with Thunder Rosa. What an amazing conversation. Eric was breaking down, a little bit of crying, a little bit of tears, talking about his shot at the title. Talked about when he won his first title and how he was able to take it home and have his mom take a picture of the title and what it meant to him. What a fantastic interview from Eric Young. And they asked him about his making his decision to leave the WWE and going back to what he calls home. And he refers to TNA as his home. He's very proud of being there and very proud of being with them. He said right out, he could not talk about his situation with WWE. He was under, whatever whatever it was that he just couldn't talk about it. But people know kind of the story a little bit and stuff like that. But it was a phenomenal interview. Check it out if you can. Really great to hear from him on there, and was just a really, really wonderful thing. But yeah, man, from that match with Eric and Moose, which was phenomenal, to Jordan Grace's triple threat, hoping Tasha Steelz is okay. Tasha, I know, got her nose damaged and stuff. I don't know the extent of that. The Ali stuff was fantastic, and we really don't know what's going on there. We have a little controversy happening there with Motor City Machine Guns. Talk about controversy in the main event. Frankie Kazarian cost Eric Young the match. So I'm sure we're getting that happening. But this, and of course, like Jeff said, the system, man. They now own gold on the tag team side of it. Eddie Edwards, Brian Myers defeated ABC. Moose retained his title. They have all of the gold right now. So trust the system. It is working. They are killing it. And man, this was just for a show that's not necessarily considered to be one of their big shows of the year. This was just some phenomenal matches, phenomenal from start to finish. Yes, they had technical issues and audio issues and stuff at the start, which, by the way, if you didn't see it, they did send an email out to their followers and people who had signed up for TNA Plus and all that. You get money off of merch. Because of their mistake. They had said that they're going to take every step that they can to correct that, because it was pretty bad. The first two matches, you were very difficult to see, very difficult to hear. They did apologize for all that, and they did send that out. So that was nice of them. They're compensating people a little bit, which is always great. I'm sure they will get that taken care of, Jeff. But Sacrifice was awesome. It was a hell of a lot of fun. It was a great show.
Yeah, it was. And I mean, honestly, from the countdown show, that really set the tone for the night. It really did. I mean, you get Crazy Steve and
Joe Hendry,
and then you get the Rascals and Speedball Mountain. Then you start the show out. You start the actual main card out with Nick Nemeth and Steve Macklin. Yep. And that's how you start the night. So, I mean, it was a really good show. If you're a fan of TNA, I'm sure you had a great time with it. if you're not a fan of TNA, it's okay. There's still time. Come join us. We'll get you into it. We'll get you caught up to speed.
Yes.
But it really was great. And then John Kessler bringing up Hammerstone,
Oh
him and
man.
Josh in that match. I mean, good stuff all around. So yeah, and and then we got to bring up that 6-man, Mustafa Ali and the Grizzled Young Vets going up against the Machine Guns, Chris Sabin and Alex Shelley and Kushida, the Time Splitters, or Time Machine, whatever they're calling themselves. All I know is this: that was a heck of a match too, and be on the lookout for some nuggets of some dissension to be dropped soon. So
Yeah, there's something going to happen there. Whether we see the Machine Guns turn heel, and maybe we're seeing, we talked about this at the beginning of the year with them after the first pay-per-view, saying it was kind of maybe the year of a faction in TNA, and they're seeing that with the system right here. But you may be starting to see that too with some of the vets, some of the people who've been around a while. Frankie Kazarian, the Motor City Machine Guns, possibly. Maybe, Jeff, maybe Frankie sways Eric Young to join in on that a little bit too. So I had very, very interesting stuff going on. Guys, if you're not watching, if you have nothing to do on a Thursday, and there's really no other wrestling going on, there might be some other stuff prior. I know NWA was doing some stuff on Thursday nights, but if you're not watching anything at 8:00 on a Thursday night, and you just want to give it a shot, come out and check it out with us. It's been a very, very good show. Some big names that are there, some great wrestlers that are there. Knockouts division phenomenal. So many great things going on. Come out and join us and check it out and get in on the action, because it's just been absolutely amazing. So. Good stuff. All right. I think we're up. Yeah, we got a couple more news things.
Couple more. Yeah, we'll scoot through these next couple. This one is a sad one, but and we'll end up with some happier news. But we did want to pay our respects.
Yeah, never easy when we have to talk about passing of legends in the business, and this was no different. Obviously, Virgil, who I got a chance to meet, I know Jeff met him as well in person. Very nice guy. Just very, very, very nice guy. He came in. He was hanging in my Radio Shack watching football because he was betting on some football games, and we were just talking and chatting about stuff. And this very, very nice guy. And of course, Ole Anderson, what can you say about him? Legend of the business, one of the original Horsemen, just phenomenal wrestler. And both of these guys in the same week. It just seems like that's what happens. We lose one person. It seems like there are some multiples that would happen. So sad always to see when these guys pass away, especially when they're big parts of your childhood and the people that you watched when you were younger. I never got to see much of Ole because, again, he wrestled mostly in the South. And I was watching that time at the, WWF back then, mostly because I lived up here. Yeah, always sad to see when they pass away, Jeff, and no different here. And we'll remember them for different things. Virgil, to me, I'll always remember him with, of course, the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, and all of that stuff, and how much and again, I go back to then and I laugh because of the people that I really just could not stand, and Ted DiBiase was absolutely one of them. But even though that was the case, Jeff, with those characters, you always kind of had a little bit of you always kind of felt for Virgil in the back of your mind, right? Because DiBiase just treated everybody like crap. And Virgil was no different. He treated him like garbage. So you always kind of wanted Virgil to beat him up one day, and you always kind of were hoping he'd haul off and hit him at some point. But man, just two legends of the business. Rest in peace. Our thoughts and prayers to them, their families, obviously, and their friends, and to all their fans. Two definite legends of the business, Jeff, that are just gone too soon.
Yeah, way too soon, man. And with Ole, I got to see a lot of Ole growing up in the South, and seeing him and Tully Blanchard a good bit. Then seeing Arn, and really seeing the formation of the Four Horsemen. And he was a huge part of that. And I mean, obviously people know Arn a lot, but Ole, I felt at times more so than Arn was the enforcer. Arn has the nickname, the enforcer, but I felt like Ole was an enforcer. So and then Virgil. I mean, whether you saw him as Virgil in the WWE or I'm gonna screw this up. I'm trying to think of what his name was. Vincent in
Vincent,
WCW
yes.
with the NWO. I always loved him. He would always get into some precarious situations,
Yep.
to say the least. And honestly, like he was. I love seeing him for many different reasons, but having the opportunity to meet him in person and to have the conversation that we talked for like 20 minutes, like 20, 30 minutes. And we talked about wrestling today. We talked about how it used to be. We talked a little bit about some people that we knew in the business that, that we had connections with in common. So it was really good to chat with him. And, again, he got me to download his Meat Sauce Madness mobile game. So, um, I'll never forget that. But, but yeah, he was a good dude. And, just really sad when our heroes and the characters of our youth pass on. So, like you said, thoughts and prayers to their families and friends, and to the fans too, because we all draw a huge connection to these folks that are entertaining us and on our televisions and that we follow. So, yeah, definitely keeping them and their families in our thoughts and prayers.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. They'll always be remembered, guys. And this is, when someone's gone, you'll always remember them for things that you felt and how you felt that, when they were on TV or when you watched them. And so they'll always be around. So, yeah, great stuff. Absolutely great memories of both of these guys. All right, moving on.
Yeah, A. Jobson bringing up Chris Mortensen, the ESPN reporter. He passed last week as well, and
Yeah, he did.
I know he had battled cancer for a while, and he just I love seeing Mort. I love
Yeah.
the Mort report. So
Yeah, me
yeah,
too. He was big for the NFL.
yeah,
Yeah,
you
absolutely. Yep, absolutely. Oh man,
wedding
wedding
bell.
bells, wedding bells in wrestling. Yeah. So how about this one? Two weddings. Now this is happy. This is much over everyone's sad to happy. But we had Dom Mysterio. Dom Mysterio got married. So how about that? So very good. There's Dom. You see, I'm sure many wrestlers probably attended the wedding of Dominic and his lovely bride right there as well. So good for Dom, man. Nice to see that. Obviously, Dom plays a character who we just all can't stand. We all hate him. That's the way it's supposed to be. He's doing a phenomenal job with that and getting us all to dislike him. But this is outside. This is real life. And Dom had a very happy event going on here in the wet. There you can see the wedding pictures. And this, how about this, guys? Hoping to see her again soon. Maybe both of these guys at some point might pop up in TNA. This is Riddick Moss and Tennille. Of course, we know them both very well. We remember them from WWE most recently. Of course, Tennille Dashwood was in Impact for quite a long time before she went over there. But yeah, check it out. A lot of people there to see this as well. It looks like I don't know where they were here. This looks beautiful. Was it? I mean, it could have been Hawaii, could have been an island or something like that. But that's gorgeous, man. They had you can see the palm trees and stuff there. It looks amazing. Yeah, man.
Nice destination wedding.
Obviously, man, this looks phenomenal wherever the heck they might have been. But congrats to them. Again, always, we get the sad, but then we get the happy. And a lot of these wrestlers, and listen, if you listen to stories about wrestlers and being on the road and stuff like that, many times they do end up getting into couples because they spend so much time together, more time than they would ever spend with siblings, brothers, sisters, their parents. And so a lot of times it does happen. They meet, they meet another wrestler. They become a couple because they're just traveling with them all the time. And it just makes a lot of sense. So, congrats to both of these couples. Hope they have a very, very wonderful honeymoon wherever they choose to go. And we'll see. Maybe we'll see Tennille and Riddick at TNA, man. Maybe before the end of the year, we might see them maybe coming at Slammiversary or something somewhere down the road. I love Tennille. Tennille was phenomenal when she was in Impact. Didn't do so much the second round in WWE, and we all know Riddick Moss. He was in several storylines over the years. Mostly noted, you'll remember him going up against Baron Corbin quite often. When he was there, we saw all that stuff happen. So great stuff, Jeff, and good news as opposed to the bad news all the time. But it's great to see.
Great to see, and honestly, I got to say this about Dom. I think James Grant said I heard there were still some booing at his. I gotta say this. I gotta say this about Dom. If you think about it, when he first came in and they were doing the stuff with Brock Lesnar, I was so worried, and I know a lot of people were worried at that point. They were like, well, he's just he wasn't really anyone that stood out to you other than being Ray's son. This dude has created quite a bit of a career for himself and has done a lot of great work to be in the position that he's in. I mean, he gets booed out of the building every single time.
Yeah, he does.
That's pretty darn good. I mean, the man can't even get through saying a couple words. He can't get through a sentence. So, wow. I mean, he's done a great job. And yeah, congrats to Tennille and Riddick Moss. Wishing them all the happiness and love going forward. It's a good thing. And again, this is something that I feel like people, like fans, don't always take into account when it comes to these people being real people. They have real feelings, aspirations. They live lives too outside of what they do in the ring. So it's good to see, to highlight these kinds of things, these great moments, and show the human side of these men and women.
Yeah, no doubt. Sometimes, we get so used to seeing them on a screen that
Right.
we are so used to their characters, right? And the things they portray. It's much like when you see actors in movies and stuff like that. You don't kind of think of them on the outside of that. You just get involved in their characters and not realize that they have lives as well. So things like this kind of makes you remember, similar to, I know a lot of people were big fans of Alexa Bliss when, of course, she had her baby and stuff like that, and seeing pictures now of her with her baby in Disney and things. It's great to see that you can see these people outside of wrestling sometimes and realize that, hey, they're happy. They're doing things in their real lives that are making them happy, and in the same time are making us happy on TV every week as well. So very cool. Yeah, very cool. I love it. Love to see good news. All right.
Joe, I want to skip to the segment that folks really love.
Yeah, let's do that because we did run over with the news. I knew we would because we had a lot of stuff to talk about in the news. So yeah, guys, you know what's coming. You know what's coming next, and this is going to be a good one. This is the favorite segment of everybody on our show every single time we do it. Bring it on. It's the airing of grievances.
The airing of grievances. I got a lot of problems with you people. Now you're gonna hear about.
All right, this one is. I never thought in my entire life I would have to speak on something like this. Never in a million years. But I guess I shouldn't really be surprised. First, I want to start this by saying that yes, I'm going to start this, but Jeff is got. I want to get Jeff's thoughts on this too, because this is something that I really want Jeff's perspective, and I want you all to hear Jeff's perspective, because here's the thing. I am a white male in the United States of America, okay? And things are different. And that's what I want to preface this, okay? So, what I'm talking about, if you haven't figured it out already, and there it is, Conrad mentioning it right there, is the whole thing about Bianca Belair. Let me start by saying this. I've been a gamer back as far as I can remember. I was playing Atari, Nintendo, and all this kind of stuff back when I was probably 8, 9 years old. Okay. So the first thing I want to allude to is, and I heard them talking about this on Busted Open as well, and it was the Greca and Bianca and Thunder Rosa. This came about because of a tweet, I believe. Came out because of a tweet. A person who was mad or upset because Bianca Belair was on a cover of a video game. A cover. Now, obviously, there are all kinds of things that that this is just disgusting for, and the least of which, or the most of which, obviously, the biggest thing here is obviously it's very much directed at her because of her race. But I want to just start here and kind of just bring this into a perspective of wondering how horrible a person can be. And here's what I want you to remember on this. And this is why I started about my gaming history. Do you know how many times I bought video games in my life? I can't even count them. I couldn't even give you a number. Do you want to know how many times I actually gave a damn about what was on the box? None. Do you know how many times I ever looked at the cover of a video game? I may have picked it up off the shelf and glanced at it for 2 seconds, bought the game, and then played it. This person is going to come out and say, so why I want to say this is because if this particular individual is saying that they are upset because she appeared on a cover, you can tell right off the bat that they have deep-rooted issues of other things, because that means absolutely nothing to anyone. Anyone who plays video games, in the whole scope of the people that play video games in this country, in this world, don't give a damn about what's on the cover. So please don't let that person or individual make you believe that this was about the fact that she was on a cover of a video game. Who in the hell cares what is on a cover of a video game? Okay? Nobody. So let's get that out of the way, number one. This is because an individual is racist. This is because an individual is a horrible person, jealous, maybe, upset, maybe, that they're not getting attention that another human being is getting, and leading back to racial things. I don't know. I can't get in this person's mind because I've never thought that way in my entire life. But the fact that someone is going to do this and spout off about somebody being on the cover of a video game, who, by the way, damn well deserves to be there. She, folks, is a star. She is a star of WWE. She has her own TV series now on Hulu with her husband. She has done very, very many things that she's gotten accolades for in her hometown, and many, many things athletic-wise that she has done. She is a phenom of this sport. and has done a ton of things for women's wrestling. And WWE's women's division would not be where it was right now without Bianca Belair being there and doing what she has done. I remember on our very show, and the reactions that Jeff had when she won the title the very first time, and seeing that and how important that was. So if some idiotic person is going to come out and say things because she was on a cover of a freaking video game box, that person is the lowest form of scum on the planet. Okay? The lowest form. This stuff is disgusting. It is sickening. And what saddens me the most, and I want to let Jeff talk. What saddens me the most about all this is we are supposed to have made strides with this thing. We are supposed to have made strides with this thing. And guess what, folks? And again, like I said at the beginning of this, I can't speak to this as much as my co-host and friend can. I don't live this every day, right? Where are the strides that we are supposed to make when crap like this is still going on, to the point of where Bianca has to come out and defend herself to an individual like this who doesn't deserve to even be responded to or spoken to or talked to on Twitter in any way, is disgusting. Disgusting. And it sickens me that it happens. And I wanted Jeff to talk about that because, listen, guys, Jeff and I have spoken a lot about this. Him and I are friends. He tells me some of the stuff that he goes through and some of the stuff he's gone through when he lived in his prior area that he lived in, when he worked in other places. It's disgusting. And I am sad for humanity as a whole that we're still in a place like this all these years later. After, God rest his soul, Martin Luther King, and after everybody else that was there that tried to make this better, and yet this kind of stuff is still going on, it makes me sick. Absolutely makes me sick. Jeff, the floor is yours.
So I feel incredibly horrible for Bianca. I feel awful that in the year 2024 we still, and I've seen some of this now. I'm not on Twitter anymore, and I'll explain why, because a lot of it has to do with this. But I haven't seen a lot of it, but what I will say is, as a person of color in this country, it's something that you have to battle almost every day. Almost every day is there's some microaggression or some bull crap that someone says that that they don't take into account how incredibly disgusting their thought process is. I will say that we haven't come as far as we probably should be in this country and in this world when it comes to racism, because folks don't want to have that conversation for some reason. It's an uncomfortable conversation, but if you can't admit that there are some things that just aren't equal, the fact that we're in 2024 and you look at businesses and you look at sports and you look at different things, and you hear people say, "Oh, it's the first time a black person did X, Y, and Z." That shows you how much of a disparity there's been in the past. But we can't have that conversation because people are too afraid to have it. Because they're afraid that people, I think the biggest issue, the biggest thing that people are afraid of is that people of color, primarily black people, when you say, "Oh, well, yeah, I think this," that all of a sudden we're just going to somehow get revenge on you. Like, we're just going to take up all of these years of pent up anger and frustration, and we're going to take it out on you. I'm going to say, for me, I just want there to be some acknowledgement. Acknowledge their biases, put it on the table, and let's work from there. It happens in my workplace. It happens doing what we do here. That is one of the primary reasons I'm off Twitter, because I cannot tell you how many times a week, folks, I used to get DMs saying, "Oh, well, you know, you're just a lazy N-word who isn't really good at talking about this wrestling stuff. Just stay behind the scenes. You're a piece of crap. The only reason you're on this channel is because they wanted some color." That's the type of stuff that happens on a day-to-day basis. I go to a store, I get followed around, not because I'm a celebrity, but because they think I may steal something. In 2024, that's what they think. But until we can start having these conversations, and it shouldn't take something in wrestling, like this is a bigger issue than wrestling. But until we start having the conversations that matter, where people can say, yeah, you know what? I grew up with my parents saying bad things about black people and people of color. Yeah, I grew up that way, but you don't have to stay that way. It's a shame that something that should be celebrated, that I have celebrated. I wish I had taken a video of my daughter seeing Bianca Belair on the cover of that game. The joy that my daughter had because she saw someone who looks like her. Representation matters, folks. When I saw Michael Jordan on basketball commercials, on Nike commercials back in the day, that stuff mattered. And it matters now. And if you can't deal with that because you're too closed-minded, because you were taught to hate, because you can't appreciate greatness and how much someone grinded and worked their behind off to get to where they are today, if you don't want to deal with that, then just don't buy the flipping game. Social media has made people so comfortable with being disrespectful to people about stuff that they wouldn't dare say in a person's face. Those people who sent me those DMs, I guarantee you, if we walked down the street and we walked up to each other face to face, they probably think once or twice about saying something like that to my face. And that's not me advocating for violence. That's just me being real. So again, if you have differences with someone, or if you want to understand someone's journey through life, talk to them. Because what I've found is I've got friends of just about every ethnicity, race, whatever. And we talk about how we were brought up. We talk about things. And what we often find out is that we have more in common than we don't. We've got a lot in common. Things may be different, a little different culturally with how some things are said or done, but we have a lot in common. And until people stop looking in certain places, and I'm slightly for 1 second, Joe, I'm sorry, I'm going to be political here for a minute. If you look at Washington as your roadmap for how you should behave in day-to-day life, you're thinking about the wrong blueprint, because Washington is just as effed up as anywhere else. And I really wish that as voters, we could clean house. That's why it's important to vote. A lot of this trash starts because you get politicians trying to divide people for a vote, because they realize that in order for them to win, they have to get their voters, their bases riled up, and they got to get their support. But what is the cost of that? It's division, it's hatred, it's stupidity. And until those jackasses in Washington are held accountable for that, it's going to continue to happen. But we, the people, have the power to tune that crap out. And that's my plea to everyone. And you know what? Maybe it starts small. Maybe it starts here. But if you got to, thank you, Conrad. But if you want to have a conversation with someone and understand a person from a different culture, have that conversation. Ask questions. Oftentimes we talk to people and we don't talk to them with the intent of truly listening. We talk to them with the intent of responding. Sometimes I don't know another way to say it. I'm just going to say it like this. Sometimes you just have to shut the hell up. God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. You should do twice as much listening as you do talking. So I'm done. I could go on this for hours, but I'm not going to. But just be decent. Just be decent, people. And if you don't like someone because of their race, if you find that, this video game is woke now because it's got a black person on it. Define woke. Tell me what woke is. And then we'll have a conversation about, some of your perception. It ain't got nothing to do with woke. It's about somebody busting their behind, earning their way, being one of the top stars in the company, regardless of gender, earning their way onto that cover. So you can miss me with the woke crap because you don't even know what woke is. You heard a politician say it, and then you just started, it's like they got their hand up your, what, and they're puppeteer. You're the puppet. So shut up about the woke crap and don't play the game. Don't play the game. All right, I'm done.
Thanks, Jeff. I know that had to have been difficult for him to say, and I appreciate him doing that. But yeah, 100% as to what everything Jeff said. I'm disgusted by this, and where Jeff went with it. The only thing I will say to you guys is this, and we make it a point where we don't talk about certain things on this channel just because. But I will say this: you live in this country. We have this is a very dangerous time for our country. Very dangerous time. We have something coming up later that's going to play hands into many, many, many things everywhere. And obviously, like what Jeff said, we saw it play into something like this, which when it comes right back down to it, is a cover of a freaking video game that people look at for 2 seconds when they buy it and never look at it again. That's it. Appreciate you all listening to that. And like Jeff said, just be smart and don't let people talk for you. Make your own decisions. So that's it for airing of grievances, guys. I'm sorry it was a little bit heavy, but we wanted to comment on it. And mostly, like I said, I wanted you to hear Jeff's perspective on it because it saddens me not only about this whole situation, but that a friend and a good friend of mine, one of my best friends, has to go through this kind of thing enough to where he has to leave Twitter, which is just gross and disgusting to me. So, all right, that's it, guys. I can only hope that Bianca is okay, and I also hope that this idiot, whoever this was, is banned or gone or out of. They'll come back regardless. Even if they get banned, they'll come back. They find a way. It's like sewer rats rising to the top of the water in the sewer. They find a way to come back. You see the people who come into our chat that do stupid crap like that, they always find a way to make new accounts, make other way. They always find a way back. So yeah, but
all we can say is thank you for the view.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Keep coming in, keep doing it. We'll take the views. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, guys, that's it. Thank you so much for listening in on this week's airing of Grievances. It was something that definitely had to be said, and thank you for listening to that. All right, we're going to move on to happier things as we're going to move forward in the show. So, Jeff, I think we're doing a little sell or no sell.
Yeah, this first topic might get some. We might have some good discussion. We'll say good debate in the chat. So, Joe, first topic, man. We're coming out swinging, right?
Ooh, a little classic one. I like it. All right.
Yeah. So, I got to shout out James. I got to shout out James Chadwick, because he sent me this, and it was created by an account, and I'm sorry. I want to give credit, and I'll probably do that on a post later. But the topic is there wouldn't be an Attitude Era if Kevin Nash and Scott Hall didn't go to WCW. Sell or no sell, Joe? This is a good one. Like, this is a really good one.
Wow, yeah, it really kind of is. It really makes you think, doesn't it? Because you have to kind of go back to when all of that started, and the WWE Attitude Era kind of came out of this. Boy, oh boy! I mean, when you're looking at it in terms of wrestling history, you kind of have to think that it would, because man, these two guys are, going back to before they showed up and did what they did in WCW and terrorized Eric Bischoff, and we're going after the roster and everything. We all know the story. Then you kind of think, well, if it's not them, who? Right? So then you go back to maybe something before them and trying to think of that. I don't know, man. Jeff, off the top of my head and off the cuff, I'm just going to go sell. I'm just going to sell this because I don't like it. I love it. I think they did. I mean, what they did in WCW was attitude, right? Now, Conrad's saying ECW. You would be right in a lot of ways. ECW had that edge. They had the grit and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, okay, I can see that argument. I can see that argument because ECW obviously was there before these guys went to WCW. And maybe you could even say that it's maybe a combination of two, if you want to look at it that way. The grittiness and blood and guts from ECW, and then what these guys did in WCW. So maybe you could see a little bit of both working its way in. But because I said I'd sell it, I'm going to sell it. And I think I'm going to sell it maybe on the basis of this. Vince McMahon at that point in time had to do something reactive because WCW was kind of taking over the world by storm. And when these two guys first started, and then when the shot heard around the world, when Hulk Hogan of all people turned and became a bad guy. I mean, that was unheard of. Who would ever think the real American, the red and white, and the guy who wore America colors and all that for all those years would be a bad guy? Wow, huge, right? One of the biggest heel turns ever. And when you saw that happen, well, my gosh, and so then as it went on, now I'm not talking necessarily as it got silly, and then they went to the NW Red and went with all the other stuff, and then but yeah, I don't know, man. I think WWE had to be reactive. They saw what was going on there. They had to compete. So how do they do it? Make it a little edgy. And like Conrad is saying with ECW, this is where you could see that too, because DX, very, very ECW like. The way
Very.
Shawn Michaels and Triple H acted, and Billy Gunn and all those guys, and Road Dogg, and the way they acted, X-Pac, right? The way they all acted, very ECW. So yeah, I could see that. So that's a good point. But yeah, I have to sell this because I do think, and maybe it's a combination of both, but I do think without them, and if you very easily just take them out of the equation, and let's say there was never an Outsiders, would we have had the Attitude Era? And I kind of want to say I don't think so.
So I think in this case, a couple things can be true. I absolutely agree that WWE was borrowing from ECW, and they were going to continue to. And I think the thing that I come down to is, had it not been for Kevin Nash and Scott Hall going to WCW, how long would that have taken? Because we all know that Vince was not someone who would just change on a dime. And you had WCW, especially when they brought, Monday Nitro going head to head with Raw. They started presenting matches in some different ways. They didn't have some of the goofy 80s gimmicks that Vince still had at that time. So it was, kind of a like, you got to get with the times here, buddy. People want a more realistic presentation. They want a more realistic approach to wrestling. And I mean, if you think about it, at the time, these two guys, they were showing up on WCW, and it was done in such a way that it made it look and feel like, man, they're really defecting. They're coming down from WWF at the time, because people for a while, because this was at a time for our younger fans of wrestling this was at a time where you didn't have social media. So you didn't know that Kevin Nash and Scott Hall's contracts were up with WWE. You didn't know that. So seeing Diesel and Razor Ramon show up on a WCW program, and then you bring in the fact that Hulk Hogan had signed a couple years sooner, it's like, okay, these WWF guys are taking over WCW. And to see the way that they just kind of popped up whenever and walked through the crowds and did all of that stuff, it just made it feel a lot more real. And then you saw, as a result of that, I think WWE adapting to that and saying, okay, we got to get edgier. We got to present wrestlers that connect with the crowd more, connect with the fans more. So you see the birth of a Stone Cold Steve Austin. You see Triple H and DX and them, really expanding and blowing up and getting more TV time and getting censored and all this other stuff. I mean, it was cool. So I think, for me, I'm going to sell it just because I think that while I do believe WWE would have eventually gotten there, I think had Kevin Nash and Scott Hall not jumped when they did, I think it would have taken them a little bit longer. So I'm going to sell it too.
Yeah. It was, look, there definitely, like Conrad said, there's definitely a
argument on both sides.
Yeah, you can definitely incorporate what ECW was doing and stuff in there as well. But it was and for the people that are talking about before the socials, it was a wonderful time, guys, because you know what? We talk about the Forbidden Door a lot. This was the Forbidden Door, because no one knew, no one had a clue what the hell these guys from WWE were doing on that show. Nobody had a clue. I remember watching it thinking to myself, what the hell is going on here? Are we seeing two companies like working together where their athletes are going? Because you didn't know. There was no reading socials. You didn't know that their contracts were up and that they had left. You had no clue. All I know is the last time I saw them, they were on WWE programming or WWF programming at the time. And then now they're there. What the hell are they doing here? This was must-see TV week in and week out. And it was because no one knew anything. And it was fantastic. Fantastic. It'll never be this way again. They'll never get this over on anybody like this again. And it was phenomenal. It was absolutely phenomenal. Love it. Great.
Joe, can you imagine how quickly the Hogan being the third man would have been spoiled back then?
Oh my God. You would have known that probably 2 weeks prior to when he showed up at that at that pay-per-view. No doubt. No doubt. No doubt, man. Yeah.
They would have spoiled Bash at the beach for sure.
Oh my God. And the fan reaction to that was so amazing. Throwing
all the because it was real. Yeah, it was a real reaction because it's like, how dare you, Hogan? And then if you were a WCW fan, you were pissed off at other WCW fans because everybody thought it was Sting. So it was like, how dare you frame our dude? Yes, and Bobby Heenan, he called it for months. He was like, I told you Hogan was a snake in the grass. Like, it was awesome. Awesome. Very well done.
Oh, it was so good. And the fan reaction, so genuine, throwing all that junk into the ring at Hogan. And oh my God. Imagine, guys, you grew up with this guy talking, eating your vitamins and saying your prayers over and over and over. And then he's the snake. He's the guy that's in charge of the other two. It was the biggest three. Like, you never would have dreamed it. Like I said, I remember watching the show because you had to. When those pay-per-views came out, you're like, I got to see this. This was must-see TV. So I paid for that show, and I remember sitting there watching and like, all right, who's going to be? All right, it's going to be, and you're guessing all these names. And then I see Hogan come down, and I'm like, yes, here comes Hogan. He's going to help Savages. This is going to be awesome. And then he snakes Randy Savage, and I'm like, what? I'm just sitting there like, what is going on here? It just blew everybody's mind. And this is when I tell you guys, it was so much fun before the socials. It was so much fun. And I'm sad for you guys that you'll never see that because it was just so good not to know everything. So good. But yeah, so amazing. I loved it. Great job, James. I absolutely love the topic. So that's great. We don't often get a chance to talk about older stuff, but that great topic brought up by James. Love this. Awesome. All right, moving on. Next topic, Jeff.
All right, next topic. So we go to another we just talked about this WCW guy. That's how I'm gonna remember. NWA, Jim Crockett Promotions, WCW. So we talked about this a little earlier, Joe, but Sting is on the Mount Rushmore of greatest wrestlers ever.
Boy, man, that Mount Rushmore is probably going to be a lot bigger than just 4 heads.
It's a heck of a lot bigger than 4.
I gotta sell it, man. Sting's fantastic.
And his name is John Cena.
Don't ask me why my John Cena thing played, but there we go.
I don't like it.
It's all right. We'll take a little Cena. It's all right. We'll take Cena too. Hey, listen, maybe. Hey, who knows? Maybe he ends up being ahead on the Mount Rushmore at some point someday too. So may not be that far off, but yeah, 100% so. I love Sting. I told you guys all this earlier when we talked about his retirement. He was such a big part of it, and we just got done talking about it. That whole era with the NWO and stuff like that, just a huge part of that for me. Again, must-see TV. I couldn't miss an episode. I'm going crazy with my stupid VCR trying to decide what I'm going to tape and what I'm going to watch. And then I'm clicking the clicker back and forth. All right, what's on here now? Okay, this isn't a match I need to watch, so I'm going back. And then I go back to the other show and back to but yeah, no doubt. Not just for the characters he had, for the wrestler that he was, for the man that he is, and what he did for wrestling in every era that he was involved in. Absolutely deserves to be there. Wrestlers, Jeff, too. You're talking about Mount Rushmore, and oftentimes we talk about this as fans. But I would love someday to poll a bunch of wrestlers and ask them who their Mount Rushmore is, because I
Yeah.
bet you we'd get some different names
Oh,
than
for
the
sure.
normal ones that we talk about. And I would bet you that a lot of them would have this man's name at the top of their mind.
Yeah.
For who he was and who he was to them and everything backstage, and people who met him and stuff like that. So no doubt sell for me. And that there's really nothing else to say. He belongs up there, and he absolutely should be up there.
Yeah. And I'm going to be honest. I like the way I was actually going to do this. I was going to break it down and break it into companies and say WCW, WWF, W/WWE. Honestly, he is, for his longevity for me, the way that he was able to change his characters, but also the way that he was able to change his style in the ring. Sting wrestling in the 90s and early 2000s is very different than the Sting that you saw last week. It almost seemed like he said, you know what? I want to show a little bit more of what I can do. I wasn't allowed to do some of the hardcore stuff that, that I really wanted to do at some points. I'm going to do this. Little Silver bringing up the matches he had with Kurt Angle and TNA. I mean, the man is he's an icon. I mean, he's the icon Sting. They call him that for a reason.
Yep.
So I think, if you're breaking it down into companies, WCW, you can't leave him off of WCW Mount Rushmore. You just can't. So for that reason, I'm going to sell it. I would ask some of you, the TNA heads in here right now, is he also on your Mount Rushmore for TNA? Because I mean, I gotta put Joe, I gotta put AJ.
Y'all,
So I mean, but is he up there with Angle? Him and Angle? Do you put someone else? So just throwing that out there, but let me know your thoughts on that one. But yeah, I think he's definitely. I mean, now when you get into greatest wrestlers of all time, I think that's a different discussion. If you're bringing in every single promotion,
yeah, that's a little tougher. Yeah,
that I think that's tough. I think he probably, if you're going with 4 on the Mount Rushmore, I think he's in that 5 to 6 range, maybe
yeah,
even 7 if you're combining all companies. If you're only going with 4 heads on the Mount Rushmore, I think that's you're going to have some interesting debate there. But I think if you're breaking it down company by company, there's no way you leave him off of WCW. There's just no way.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, if you're going just 4 total, I mean, my gosh, you have San Martino, you have Ric Flair, you have it's Undertaker. Yeah, no doubt.
Rock.
Yeah, The Rock, Cena's up there now. I mean, yeah, it's that'd be hard to do that overall, but it seems like everyone agrees. When you're looking out in the chat, sell for WCW, says Conrad. WWE and TNA Hall of Fame. Sell, says John. Easy sell, says Andrew. Bischoff had to convince Hogan to be heel. Mount Rushmore is selective and personal, so if he's on yours, I won't argue. No sell if it's for probably others ahead of him, but say top 30 ever, I'd put him in. WCW, Flair, Sting, Rose, Arn Anderson. Sell it to the moon, says Bonus Baby. Sell most definitely, says A. Jobson. WCW, Mount Rushmore would easily sell, said Brandon. Mania is going to feel there's a night. TNA wrestling the match CLF with Kurt Angle were amazing. Derek says sell. Deanna says could be. Yes, he is, says Little Silver. He's on my TNA Mount Rushmore with AJ, Angle, and Samoa Joe, says James Grant. Christopher agrees. Yes, he is. Him and Bully Ray as well. AJ, Samoa Joe, Angle, Sting is an argument, says Conrad. Top 4 with AJ, Kurt, and Sting. Raven, Jarrett, Joe, AJ, Bully Ray, Kurt Angle, AJ Styles, Samoa Joe. Everyone mentioning men. A few women I could think of up there in contention. They would have their own Barry, I would think. I would. You could certainly start making waves for a women's Mount Rushmore wrestling, no doubt. No doubt about that. So, all right, cool. Love it. We're moving on. And this is the new one.
Yeah.
This is Fans Choice. So, Jeff, go ahead, tell them how to play along.
All right. So let us know in the chat. We've got a few spots for the next topic. So let us know, and I'll put them on this little board. We'll spin it. And yeah, and that's how we'll go. We'll pick some out of the chat. So start getting those in there and letting us know what your questions are, and try to make it like a definite statement, so we can, so it's a yes or a no. So it's yeah, I agree, or no, I don't. So that's the only rules there. But yeah, let's see what you got this week. Joe, I have another one from James.
Okay.
But I want to save that one for next week.
Okay.
Because it's another good one, and it involves Gunther. It involves Gunther. So
all right.
I want to talk about that one next week.
Looks like we're getting some. So we have Brandon Sandman says Roman Reigns' current title reign has become the most synonymous since The Undertaker's WrestleMania undefeated streak. So Roman Reigns, he's comparing Roman Reigns' title reign has become synonymous. I think you mean synonymous with The Undertaker's WrestleMania undefeated streak. Okay. All right. James Grant is saying Cody Rhodes will lose at WrestleMania on night 2. Cody Rhodes will lose on night 2 of WrestleMania. Hey, Jobson says Rock is a good actor. Sell or no sell. Derek saying, why is Mickey so hot? Oh, God. Cody will finish his story. Of another Cody one from John G. Cody will finish his story at the WrestleMania. So Cody will finish his story at WrestleMania. All right, we need more, guys. Get us some more. We got to fill up the spinner. It has to be a yes or no question. So get us a couple more. Oh, here we go.
5 more spots.
John Kessler has one. Hammerstone will be the TNA World Champion by the end of this year. All right. Eric Isaac's still talking about his Mount Rushmore there. Sting, Samoa Joe, AJ Styles, and Jeff Jarrett. Women, Daphne, Gail Kim, Awesome Kong, and Tracy Brooks.
Yeah, you got to put Gaffney up at the top.
Yep. A says Roman is going to break Bruno Sammartino's record. Let's get ready for it. He says, so we can do that. Yes or no? Will Roman break the record of Bruno Sammartino? That'd be insane. Insane. Little Silver says John Cena shows up at WrestleMania to help Cody win the title to finish his story. I told you, I think we're going to see some faces down in that ring that are going to end up coming back to haunt the bloodline. Cena could certainly be one. Chris is saying, and this is something that Jeff has mentioned, Seth turns on Cody on night 1 of WrestleMania. And then we got one from Conrad. Okada debuting as a heel for AEW was a good move.
That's the last one.
Okay. All right. So keep your other ones, guys. And Seth Rollins will turn on Cody at Mania. Jesse, we've got that one as well. So Jesse's can be lumped into that because we had someone else give us that as well. So cool. And Derek will save yours for next week. So we'll bring that back. We'll bring that back for next week. So Chris Wilhelm from Twitch said that, Jesse, actually above you, a little bit above you. Seth turns on Cody on night 1. So yeah, he said it a little bit above you, unless you said it before. But either way, it's there. All right. Well, there you go. We're gonna spin the spinner. Chris never said that. No, it was Chris. Sorry, it wasn't you, Chris. It was Chris Wilhelm 237. So there you go. All right, we're gonna spin it.
Oh, and we land on that one too.
Did we really?
Seth will turn on Cody.
There you go.
At WrestleMania. So good stuff. That it just worked out that way. So good stuff.
There you go. All right, guys. Sell or no sell. Seth Rollins will turn on Cody Rhodes night 1 of WrestleMania. Sell or no sell. Jeff, I'm going to let you go with this one first because you already mentioned a little bit of this. I think I kind of know what Jeff's already going to say. So it's all you, man.
I'm selling it.
I don't like it. I love it, love it, love it.
But I will say that Clown kind of made me think about doing it a different way. I think we get a turn, but maybe we don't get it until the end of Cody finishing his story. Maybe we get Seth showing up and being less than enthused, we'll say. And maybe that starts that. I do think though, I think it's a possibility. If I'm going with my original idea, I think it's a possibility that we get a double turn on night one. Or at the very least, we get a hint of a turn. We get one turn for sure, and that being The Rock. And maybe we get a hint of a turn from Seth. I don't know, but it's fun to speculate. It's fun to fantasy book it. But I think it happens. I do. I'm just gonna stick with it and say I do.
Okay. Let's see what everybody's saying because I'm still thinking. Damien says sell the rare double turn. Conrad says no sell. James Grant says sell turns on night one. Alex Bliss Gamer says no sell. Christopher says no sell. I'm gonna say no sell because I don't want Seth to be a heel right now, but I could definitely see it selling, says Jesse. John G says sell. Chris says me too, selling it to myself. Sell, but I think it happens after the match at WrestleMania night one. Sell. I really hope Seth turns heel. He's such a good heel. Dylan saying no sell. Clown saying no sell. Seth goes heel night one. Rock goes face night two, says Erase Your Mind. I'm keeping my suggestion for next week and no selling because Seth likely faces Drew on night two. Because if there is the double turn, we'll end up Seth versus The Rock before it's Rock versus Roman. Seth can't go heel night one. He has to go heel after Drew beats him. I'm going to no sell it because I think they will do it. I think I'm under the impression that Seth is going to get beat by Drew. Okay. Now we know he's okay. He's in good health. So maybe he won't be taking time off. I kind of thought he would be. And I still kind of do at some point because he's going to have to be doing that movie stuff. But if he's going to stick around, I think they're going to wait just a little bit because I think where you're going to see the heel turn is going back to my theory of I think you're going to see Cody getting a lot of help from other directions. And I think Cody is going to maybe just forget about Seth just a little bit. And
forgot maybe where he came from, huh? Forget where he got his help from. I got
right. Maybe not give him the credit he thinks he's due for getting that title or helping him to achieve what he wanted to achieve. And maybe he gets a little upset because he's not given any credit. Because we see that happen a lot with tag teams and stuff like that in wrestling. So I think that's where it's going to go, and maybe it'll even be the Raw after Mania, where we might see that. Maybe you'll see signs of Seth kind of getting lost in the shuffle a little bit of a celebration. Maybe there's a big celebration for Cody and you see Jey Uso there and you see, I don't even know, maybe you see Drew there and maybe that pisses off Seth a little bit because maybe at that point Drew has the title and maybe Drew comes out, does something to help as well. And maybe Drew, is out there celebrating and maybe Seth is the forgotten piece and then Seth gets pissed. Because he was the one who instigated. He was the one who said they accepted the match. So that's how I'm going to look at it. I think it's going to happen, but I think that's how it's going to go. So
that's a movie right there. I like that. So
we'll see, man. But that's kind of how that seems like a wrestling kind of a thing to do.
Yeah, I like that. I like that.
So Good stuff. Thank you so much, guys, for voting. We appreciate you. And those of you who voted, again, remember, come back every week, and you may have yours end up being a part of our Sell or No Sell segment. I have to shout out real quick, all of you guys. Look at how many people are here. This has to literally be one of the biggest shows that we've had as far as people that are watching. So thank you, all of you, for coming out. That's amazing to have this many people here on a Sunday night with us and so late at night. We really appreciate it. And thank you all for coming out. It's wonderful to see that. So really, really appreciate all of you guys. All right. We're going to move on, Jeff, to our next topic.
Burning question of the week. And I will say this one gets spicy.
Okay.
It's a little spicy. Here we go.
All right.
Question of the week.
We got a burning question coming up, guys. So, warm yourself up by the fire. Here we go.
All right, Joe. So the burning question of the week. So this is what we got. I feel like Roman Reigns gets a lot of hate. Some deserved. Does his recent run put him in the same tier as The Rock, Stone Cold, or Cena, in your opinion? Folks, give us your thoughts too. I felt like this was a really good question, and especially coming off the Mount Rushmore talk and all of that. Let's have this chat.
Wow, man, really making everybody think so late at night on a Sunday. This is a good burning question. Listen, a lot of us may be kind of at the point where we're maybe over this, right? And we're kind of thinking like, all right, let's get down off this little mountain now, and the ride needs to end because it's getting a little old, a little stale now. But guys, remember how long this has gone on. It's insane at this point. To think that a storyline could continue for as long as this had in our day and age is insane. Now, yes, go back to the 70s and the 60s, even in wrestling, and sure, you saw this all the time, lasting for years and years and years with some feuds that would go on. But this lasting how it is now, with the patience that sometimes wrestling fans have, is pretty damn phenomenal. So is he now in the same tier as The Rock, as Stone Cold Steve Austin, or John Cena? Wow, they're three big names. Big. You want to talk about, maybe even a more current Mount Rushmore? Right there are three of the biggest in the business. Man, oh man. Put him in the same tier as I have to read this one more time for myself, as The Rock, Stone Cold, or John Cena. Oh man, I mean,
it's a tough one. I think
it is.
I think, Joe, I think going back to our Mount Rushmore discussion, I think if you look at the WWE and you break it up into eras, I think if you go like from start to the 80s, I don't think Cena is necessarily on the Mount Rushmore for that era if you're looking at the company as a whole. I think you have to break it up into eras again for certain places. WWE, I think, just because of the amount of talent that they've had over the years, I think you have to do that. And I think if you're breaking it up into eras and you say from like 20 whatever to now, Roman's going to be one of your top people there. I'd also argue that for AJ Styles in this recent era. But to say that he's on at that tier, for me, I'm going to go with a no. But he's knocking on the door, I think.
I mean, guys, can we literally sit and call this the Roman era? You kind of can.
You can.
It's the bloodline era. I know people are mentioning the fact that he doesn't wrestle much, but guys, go back into 80s wrestling or 70s wrestling and watch some of this and see how many times some of the biggest people of all time used to wrestle, especially for the titles. Bully Ray compared him to Andre the Giant. He's a spectacle. He doesn't get seen a lot because he's at the point where he's a spectacle. And so you're going to see him 4 times a year, maybe 5. I don't know. This is a tough question, but I think I do have to agree with Jeff here, and I'm gonna have to say he's not there yet. However, the argument to it, we're living in a very different time in wrestling now for several reasons. This stemmed from one of the worst times in pro wrestling history with COVID. So this came from that. Very, very, very different. And we all know what was happening during COVID and how they tried to continue and all that. And then Roman and everything kind of, as soon as that came, that this stemmed from all that. So we were in a very different time, unprecedented times, really, in professional wrestling. So I'm going to say no to the question. Because The Rock is high of highs, Stone Cold high of highs, and John Cena as well. But like Jeff said too, I don't think he's that far away. And if for some reason, and God help Philadelphia if this happens.
Oh, I know where you're going with this.
If for some reason Roman wins again and sneaks out of there with the title and Cody doesn't win, not only is Philadelphia going to burn, but Roman at that point, then where do you go? Because now all of a sudden he could be on pace to beat Hulk Hogan's record.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Well, I guess the other part of this question that I'm curious about, and this is for everyone, myself included, I got to think about this. Is there something that he can do to get to that tier in your eyes? What would you need to see from Roman Reigns to say, yep, he's definitely in there now?
Good question. There you go. Has anyone else seen The Rock's commercial for Zoa? OMG. No, I haven't seen it.
It's so fun.
Is it? I'll have to check it out.
Yeah.
The Rock, Cena, and Austin could do it alone. I'm not sure Roman could. Very true. I mean, a lot of Roman stuff was that. But now remember, Barry, while I agree with you recently, at first, it wasn't so much. Because remember when you had Roman wrestling in a cage against Kevin Owens, stuff like that back in the day, he was winning on his own. The whole bloodline interference thing just came up in the last year and a half or so. But Roman was winning a lot of these matches on his own at first. So,
or are you also taking into consideration the run with the Shield, which I have heard some people say the fact that he relied heavily on a faction to kind of get going, which, I mean, you can argue, because this is the point that I argued back. I said, yeah, but you can say the same for The Rock, because think about The Rock's run pre-Nation of Domination.
Yeah.
And think about it after. And if that didn't happen, then where's The Rock in all of this? So, I mean, I think the faction argument is an interesting one, but I think if you're going to use it for Roman, you got to use it for Rock too.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think here's the thing. At the end of it all, whenever Roman decides to retire, he's going to be one of the biggest stars that's ever come through that company. Whether he's on a Mount Rushmore or not, I'm not sure that matters to him. But, I think that I got to think about what he can do in my eyes, I think, to kind of be at that same level, because I think people take for granted what The Rock, Stone Cold, and Cena, as much hate as Cena gets and has gotten in the past, I think people kind of underestimate and undervalue what they did for the business. Also, by the way, John Cena, mentioning him, he has a new movie on Prime Video, Ricky Stenicki. It is freaking awesome. It's so hilarious. Don't watch it around kids. It's not a kids movie at all. But check it out if you get a chance. If you like good comedy movies, it's a good one.
Here's an interesting little thing too, and how we're all talking about where this is headed. If if what we think is going to happen is going to happen, and the Rock and Roman turn on one another, the Rock has already said in the past that he's going to put Roman over. Now, what's to say that the Rock doesn't take the heel role and run with it, and Roman doesn't turn? And then we get Roman Reigns going back to being a face of sorts, kind of like he was when the Shield first began. And that's the way he goes. So then, you're turning him back over. You're turning him into a good guy at that point, and The Rock's going to put him over that way. And so now you got a whole different version of Roman Reigns. I don't know. It's just so many things that can happen from this, and that's why this WrestleMania is going to be so exciting. But either way, look, like him or hate him, I hated the guy. I've said this many, many times on this podcast. I hated Roman. I was one of those dudes that whenever I'd see him win, I'd be like, why is it always this guy winning? I hated him. Dude, I hated him. When everybody thought he was that hand.
I can attest to that because we've had conversations in the past about Roman.
Oh my God, I hated him. I was one of those people who, whenever he'd win, I'm like, why is he winning? I just hated him. Now, obviously, I respect him for what he's done and everything like that. But man, it's crazy. I love it. This is a great question, and definitely something to think about. So awesome, very, very cool. All right, I think we're gonna move on to favorite moments, Jeff. Yeah.
Yeah. Favorite moments of the week. So let's go. Let's go with favorite moments of the week.
All right, here we go, guys. You know how this works. Give us your 3, give us your 2, give us your 1, and we'll talk about our favorite moments from this past week of pro wrestling. So, Jeff, what is your number 3?
This is tough, man. This was a tough week. A lot of good stuff. Yeah, a lot of good stuff happening. But you can probably tell where I'm going to go with my number 1 by me putting this low on this list. I thought that the entirety of Sacrifice deserved to be in there, and I think from a match standpoint, just seeing some of the action that we saw to, I mean, my goodness, like getting the surprise that we got with Danny Luna and Jody Threat winning the Knockouts tag team titles.
Crazy.
Seeing the match that we saw with Josh and Hammerstone, tremendous. The match between EY and Moose, another good one. The women's triple threat match, another good. I mean, they just had so many good matches, and yeah, I think it just deserves a spot on the top 3 because it was that good for me.
Love it. Yep, absolutely love it. My number 3, and I'm going to go right back to Sacrifice as well. But my number 3 is my number 3 because it was kind of a crazy situation I got put into when the show first started, and I was kind of running like a minute or 2 late, and I got in there, and what do I see before my very eyes on the TV screen? I see Crazy Steve coming down to the ring, and I'm like, oh, this is awesome. We're starting off with Crazy Steve. I love Crazy Steve. I love the mask. Love all this stuff. And then I see him get in the ring, and who's he in the ring with? Oh my God. Joe Hendry. And I'm like, what am I going to do now? Like, these are my, 2 of my favorite wrestlers in TNA right now. And now I got to see them going up against one another in the match. And then I know AJ Francis is out there, and there's something going to happen because that Hendry's going to lose somehow because AJ's going to get involved, and they're going to go into a match together. But listen, even though it tore my heart out, Joe Hendry lost because of interference, but that's my number 3 favorite moment because I love wrestling for some reasons like that and those very kind of situations because it kind of tears at your fan base and your heartstrings a little bit because you just don't know. Sometimes that happens, right? We might like two wrestlers that we really enjoy what they do, and then they end up facing off against one another. That's hard. It's hard to decide who the hell do I root for. And so I can't say I was upset that he lost, but I was upset that he lost. It's just weird, and it's just something you only see in wrestling. So that's my number 3. All right, let me see what we got. Number 3, Cody slapping the Rock, says Derek. And Joe Gacy versus Dijak, the Asylum match, says Alexa Bliss Gamer
That
0809.
was awesome. You got to go back and watch it if you haven't, Joe.
I am going to have to do that. I did not know that happened. Okay. Monet stands like she was going to save Bailey. Get GTFO. Cody slaps the taste out of the Rock's mouth as number 3. Wow. I kind of thought that was going to be a lot of people's number 1. Okay. Curious to see what your 2 and 1s are going to be. Roxanne Perez official heel turn. Yeah, I did happen to see that one. Did happen to see that one. Maki Ito winning the GCW Extreme title. There you go. Awesome. Love it when other shows get mentioned. Joe Gacy and Dijak. I'm gonna have to watch that then. A lot of people's number 3 right there. Nice. Nick Nemeth versus Macklin match. Very, very good match between those two. Wish we could have seen it a little clearer, unfortunately. But it was very good. Dylan says the same thing. A. Jobson says number 3 is Tiffy time. Maki Ito winning is Clown's number 3 as well. Andrew saying TNA Sacrifice Josh versus Hammerstone is a match I need to see. If you haven't seen it, Andrew, phenomenal.
Check it out.
Yeah, phenomenal. So, all right, nice, awesome, guys. Keep them coming. We're gonna go to our number 2. So, what's your number 2 favorite moment of the week, Jeff? And you guys in the chat, give us your number 2.
All right, my number 2, which this pretty much gives away my number 1, but I'm fine with that. Cody Rhodes slapping the absolute taste out of the Rock's mouth. I mean, he slapped him so hard that I honestly thought we were going to get like 90s Rock at one point. I thought he was going to break out in the song because he got slapped so hard. But yeah, Cody getting his lick back. That's my number 2.
Oh man. My number 2. Man, I gotta go with. Boy, I'm trying to think back to some of the other stuff that I saw on. Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna go a little off the cuff. And I'm gonna go to, and this is not something I saw, but something I heard. I'm gonna go to that interview that I heard on Busted Open with Eric Young. I absolutely loved it. I really did. I know a lot about Eric Young, the wrestler. I don't think I've ever heard him talk too much about his personal life. He seems like he's kind of a quieter dude. And me hearing all that kind of stuff that he talked about, and how he opened up and how he's very, very emotional. And you know why I love it? Because of the comment that he said about how he realized TNA is his home, which is very cool. This guy, as LaGreca made it clear on there, he gave up being in the top company out there. He gave up a dream that most everyone has, and that is to be in the WWE. And he did it for his own reasons. And he did it, he said, because he wanted to come home. And I absolutely love that. I absolutely love that. And that's no shot at anyone. It's no shot at WWE or anything like that. I just love it when someone does. And I told you guys, it's one of the reasons why I'm a big fan of Ace Austin, because Ace Austin came out and said how he could have picked NXT. He was being courted by NXT, could have gone to NXT, but he chose to stay at TNA because he wanted to be there. And I love that. I don't think it happens a lot or as much maybe anymore. And I think that was absolutely terrific. Eric Young bearing his soul, the story about his mom, and having her take a picture with holding his title when he won it. Just great stuff. And I love hearing things like that from wrestlers. So that's my number 2. Little bit of a more personal thing for Eric Young, but I thought it was great. That's my number 2. So, all right, let me see what people got here. We have Andrew. Derek says Ospreay versus Takashita. My top two are from the past week, but I had to save these moments for this week. That's all good, dude. Yeah, that's a great one. TNA put the match on YouTube. That's not Lyra Valkyria versus Tatum Paxley versus the Kabuki Warriors for the WWE Women's Tag Team Championships. Is Alexa Bliss Gamer. Bonus Baby says TNA Sacrifice as a whole. Rock versus and Roman Reigns versus Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins is official, says A. Darby diving into the glass. Oh, that was so hard to watch. I cringe when I see that stuff because have any of you guys ever like cut yourself on a piece of glass, regardless of whether it's the smallest cut like a finger or stepping on a piece of glass? Can you imagine going through glass like that? Oh man, it gives me the willies. Roxanne's heel turn is number 2 for John G. Brandon says my number 2 is Cody slapping the Rock after and Seth accepted the challenge. Number 2, Cody slapping the Rock from Dylan. TNA Sacrifices Andrew Stevens number 3. Dustin versus Dustin at Mania. Yeah. My number 2 is Jordan versus Tasha versus Zaya Brookside. Great match. Great match, and feel bad for Tasha that she did get injured there, but yeah, great match. Darby's interview on Dynamite. Mariah May debut number 1 is Aaron's. We didn't get to number 1 yet, but Okada debuts in lines with the Young Bucks. Talk about big business, says Andrew. Number 1, Sting's last match. All right, we're gonna go to number 1, Jeff.
Yep, and I'm just gonna follow suit and bring up the fact that Sting getting the send-off that he received. Kudos to Tony Khan. Kudos to AEW because that was absolute perfection. In my eyes, I think the involvement of his sons, kind of being different versions of the character of him, what he's done throughout the years, I think that was a great touch. The fact that he finished his AEW run undefeated and as a champion. I mean, so well done by AEW. But yeah, thank you, Sting, for an incredible career and inspiring so many people. And yeah, that's my number 1.
Yeah, that's my number 1 as well. How could it not be? I will say the Cody and Rock thing was fantastic. I would give that like that would be like a 2A for me, or like my number 2A and B. I should have made that an A and B. But yeah, how can you say anything but what they did for Sting in his retirement match? Guys, look, sometimes we don't always get to see retirement matches happen for one reason or another. The wrestlers get too hurt and to be able to do that. They just can't do that anymore at certain points of their career. Sting was able to wrestle at that age and go out the way he wanted to go out, and that's not the way it usually happens. A lot of these wrestlers get really banged up and injured, and they can't continue. We all know the story of The Undertaker, right? And about what happened to him and how, he just got to the point where he just couldn't do it anymore. And so Sting got to go out on his own, got to go out his way, and AEW did a phenomenal job with it and paying homage to a legend. And we all got to watch it and witness it, and it was just fantastically done. And like Jeff said, hashtag thank you, Sting. A lot of people are saying that in the chat. 100%. Thank you, Sting, for everything, for entertaining us. For what people don't remember is for being away from your family for how many days out of the year that you don't get to see your family or your kids growing up or your wife, any of that. It's so hard. It's so hard for them when we don't realize that, guys. That's something we're not privy to see, but you got to remember that this is what happens. And many times wrestlers don't stay together with their wives or their spouses because of that, because it's just too hard. And so wonderful that he was able to go out the way he wanted to go out, and wonderful that Tony Khan gave him that opportunity and gave him such an amazing match to go out on. We will miss him. He's a once-in-a-lifetime superstar. And again, like Jeff said, thank you, Sting. Fantastic. Excellent way to go out. My number 1 as well. All right. Bonus Baby says, thank you, Sting. Cody slapping the Rock. Cody said Bloodline promo Derek being there to witness Sting's last match. Ah, amazing. It's amazing, dude. You'll never forget it. Blessing to be part of history. Yeah, you'll never forget that. That's a great moment to be a part of. Feels like SmackDown was cut short. All the guards outside the ring, I'm sure more was about. It's funny you mentioned that. They were talking about that on Busted Open this morning as well, and mentioning that that a lot of them were probably in the back during that segment. And he said, like, the producers and stuff saying, like, all right, Rock, all right, stop talking, Rock. That's enough. We have to end this now. Come on. When the Rock gets going, you're not going to stop him. That's why sometimes they have to give him like 45 minutes to do a promo on a TV show, because that's just the Rock, man. So it could very well be. That's slap though. Says A. Jobson. Yes, Sting's final match, number 1. Cody getting his lick back. LA Knight unfortunately beat up a poor defenseless TV. Yes, he did. He really did. He beat up a TV. Number 1, found Ring Ka King, the wrestling show TNA made in India about 10 years ago. Was really fun. Haven't laughed so much at a wrestling show since IPWF. That's the rest of this week sorted for me, watching them all. That's cool. That's awesome. It's finding something that makes you laugh. Always a good thing. Always a good thing. All right. There you go. So that is our top 3 moments of the week. We ran long on this one, guys. We apologize we did, but we're glad you all stuck around with us. You've all been, man, you guys are troopers. You've been with us since the start. And like I said, thank you so much for making this really one of the biggest shows that on a Sunday that we have ever had. Amazing. We have 80 people here. That's like sometimes what we get for big pay-per-view events in the chat at the same time. So kudos to all of you for doing that. And really, really awesome seeing you guys all here tonight. I know Jessie was here. I'm not sure she still is.
Yeah, I just sent her something in the chat. I said, if you're here, can we do like 2 to 3 jokes if you are here?
Yeah.
But if not, we'll head out.
I know she popped in for a little bit, but if you're still here, Jessie, like 2 or 3 would be good, and then we'll get out of here so everybody can go and Jeff can get some rest because he does have to work tomorrow, unlike me. I get tomorrow off. So if you're still here, I'm not sure. I haven't seen her though in a little while in the chat, so we'll just give her a minute or 2. But anyway, for all of those of you who are in here, if you aren't subbed to the channel, please do so. We would really appreciate that. Obviously, give us a like on the stream tonight as well if you enjoyed the content and like what you heard. Really appreciate that. Also helps us out big time with all the algorithm BS. And also hit the notification bell about being notified about our content that is coming in the future, which next up should be Abby's, and we'll let you know what day and what time it'll be once Jody gets back to us and lets us know about that. And then also, of course, we will be back here on Thursday night for TNA Impact starting at 8:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then we'll be back here next week for all of the stuff that happened in pro wrestling. We'll talk to you all again next Sunday right here at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Between the Ropes. All right. Yeah, I don't see anything going on out there. So I think it's time to say goodnight. Good night. Farewell. It's time to say goodbye. Guys, have a great rest of your night. Wherever you may be, please stay safe. Please be kind to one another, especially on those socials. Have a great rest of your night. Have a great week in wrestling. And hopefully we'll see you all for the next one. Have a good one. Have a great one. And we'll talk to you soon. Good night, everybody.